everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my best friend since I was a very young man. It's Tyler. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Good to be here. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's well. Best
And
friend forever.
that's right. Me and Tyler, best friends. You remember Tyler when I worked at a shop that sold magic cards, and you were like, I don't know, you were like 13 and you used to come play Magic. You'd show up on Saturday mornings and annoy me by playing Magic all morning. You remember that?
I do remember that. That's why I know so much about it.
Exactly. It was great, great time, great time. Also joining us this week on the show for the first time, and I'm very happy to have him, Ridge Hanna. Ridge, how you doing, brother? Oh, did we lose him?
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing for him to freeze.
That's amazing.
That's okay. Well, Ridge will say hi in a minute. That's okay. He'll be back, I'm sure. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
He looks at least he's left smiling.
Indeed.
Okay. So he'll join back in a second, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But first, of course, as we're going to talk about Seraphon tonight and revisit them in 3.0. That's why we have a preeminent Seraphon player here. But before we get into that, let's do some news. All right, so what do we got?
Rumor engine looks like a Necron. That was my guess. Is that seems spot on?
Yes, it's totally a Necron. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we get a lot of 40K rumor engines, it seems. So yeah, that's what that is. And we had a number of things. We got the pricing on dragons. Saw that.
Yep.
And the height size, which is good to know. I think what, 8 centimeters?
Something like
that.
Pretty tall.
10, yeah. But I saw it was exactly the same size as the megas. So that's cool. 120? What did I say? No, 150 USD is what I saw.
Yep. I turned myself up a little there. Someone mentioned I'm a little quiet. Hopefully that's a little better. We'll see how it works. At any rate, I kept myself at the same place I was last week, where everybody said I was too loud. So, by the way, I bet Ridge, who mentioned before the show, he was using his laptop.
Oh, yeah.
I bet that he didn't plug his laptop power in.
That's probably
the battery
right.
died.
Yeah.
Like right now, that's probably what happened. So yes, totally a Necron. Good. Okay. And then 150 on the dragons. Yeah, reasonable. They were cheaper than I thought.
Yeah.
Like I was afraid they were going to end up in Mega Gargant range, but they weren't.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool.
Megas are 195, I think.
Yeah,
that's that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So.
And I mean, really, it's a better deal because you only ever, really need one of these dragons. I guess you could theoretically get both if you wanted, but come on now. Come on, son.
No, you're gonna run that Sankara side list. That are that we covered in that show. That was like that had your name written all over it. That
Might
list.
as well have just said Vince's new list. You are exactly correct. That is correct, Tyler. Yes. You're not wrong.
Yeah. All right. So, you got the new Nurgle Start Collecting kit here. I actually didn't see the details on that. I heard about it. Do you know what's in that?
It's the Scrivener, 10 Plague Bearers, 5 Blight Kings, and then 2 of the big Puscoil Blightlord guys. That sounds right.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
So it's one of those.
But that sounds right. And it's like it's a getting started. Okay.
Right.
Like it's the ad that leaked had it with all the getting starteds. But it was but it had a new price point. Okay.
Yeah, because it's got more in there.
Yes. Welcome back, Rich.
Yeah.
Hold on, we gotta know if I was right or not. Did you forget to plug your actual laptop in and it died and you didn't have power?
No.
Oh, darn it.
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the lights flickered, and I heard like a weird sound, and then went over to the modem, and no lights were on. So got struck at the absolute perfect time for the internet to go down, apparently.
All good, my man. All good. Okay. So, at any rate, we were just, I introduced you. Hi, Ridge. How you doing? Welcome. Good to have you. we were talking about Seraphon. We're getting in the news. So yes, the new Nurgle getting started box. So yeah, it's like the Scrivener, 10 Plague Bearers, 5 Blight Kings, and 2 Pusquile dudes. So it's basically what was on the box. Like you had to zoom way in, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And it's in a new price point. It was in euros, so I don't know exactly how they translate, but it had its own new price point of 100 euros. So obviously that's going to be more than 100 USD, but I don't know what that means USD. So.
Cool. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing all these that we'll be getting, because I know that 40K they moved to these kind of boxes where you get a little bit more, a little higher price point, but yeah. And then I know we'll be getting our Battle Force box preview, I think this week, maybe next week, pretty soon.
Yep, we're expecting. They confirmed that Battle Forces are coming, and we're expecting the Battle Force box preview. I believe it would be next week, timing wise, is usually when they reveal it. Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, those are always great deals.
Yeah, I'm excited for Nurgle. I played a little bit here and there, but yeah, I'm just hoping the Mortals are going to be good and have cool rules and some type of bonus to cast. And yeah, I got a little bit more into the Demons now as well, but just playing the channel and stuff, we'd like to play a bunch of different armies. So I have been slowly collecting a big Nurgle army. So yeah, I'm pumped for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of questions. What kind of book are we going to get? That's what we're all wondering. Like, it's like, I will say, happy with everything I've seen in 3.0 so far, but the shadow of Slaanesh looms large over all of us. I feel that in my soul.
Yeah.
So there you go. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, got a good feeling on this one. Sure. Yeah, for whatever the hell that's worth. But yeah, we'll see.
Me too.
Be it. This one's going to be a banger. Grandfather Nurgle wouldn't let us down. That's right.
Glotkin. Yeah. Make the Glotkin good. I want the Glotkin to be just amazing. That would be...
I really think the Glotkin is going to be too good. Okay, like they're going to... because it's this swing that they always do. And like he's featured heavily in all of the like art pieces that they've used to talk about this upcoming tome. And anytime they do that, Battle Force is revealed tomorrow. Okay, cool. Sorry, I thought it was Sunday, but tomorrow, great. But like they keep putting him in all the pictures, and I'm like, yeah, okay, guys, you're angry that your big centerpiece model that is so cool, that is very new, hasn't been like featured in any armies for years. So. Yep.
Yeah, he's always so close though. Like his command ability, his spell, they're so good. But yeah, it's like they're almost there.
Let me ask you a question. Does Glotkin get fixed the same way the Prime got fixed? Like if they add 7 words to him, if the 7 words they add are this model has a 4+ ward.
It helps a lot.
Or 5+ ward. Which, by the way,
doesn't have one right now?
No, he does not have a ward save right now.
No. He's mortal, so yeah.
Wild.
Like, there's no way he should get a 4+ ward, by the way. That would be terrible. He's way too big and way too many wounds. That would be a nightmare.
And Nurgle's going to have ways to heal, and I guarantee they're going to have ways to, you know what I mean, do those types of things. So, yeah, 5 up I could see maybe. Yeah, he's named character, so you can't really give him or take anything like that. But, yeah, he's just unreliable as well for damage. He's more just there to suck up wounds, have a good command ability, and an awesome spell. But again, there's no way to give +1. Only the Guo can get +1 by stabbing itself. So it's like in this day and age, casting on dice like Alariel is just not a fun thing to do.
Yeah, definitely needs to get damaged up a little bit, but sure, that would go a long way. Because what, 16, 18 wounds, Glotkin?
He's got 18, I think, yeah.
18? Yeah, that would be amazing. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's much. Because you're right, Ridge. I mean, he's always felt like he's, not too far off from being playable. But doesn't feel like he needs much.
Well, you run him with like the 1 wound. Like I used to run him with Plague Monks, which was amazing, but even better were Marauders, right? Because that spell is giving them 2 wounds each, +1 attack. It gets ridiculous, especially with the turn and Blades of Putrefaction on a 5+. But again, if you don't get any of those spells off, it doesn't matter how amazing they are.
Unbuffed magic is always like a questionable strategy at best. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll see. Nurgle, I'm sure we'll get some Nurgle information coming very soon. So. All right. What else we got?
Good. Yeah, we got the Cities of Sigmar White Dwarf photos are making the rounds. So this show is engaged in a campaign of manufacturing consent where we're not allowed to talk about grand strategies and battle tactics.
Correct.
So we're probably just going to skip those.
Uh-huh. They should all just be burned, or like get rid of them. They don't exist.
Yeah.
Correct. Even though I was very upset reading them, by the by, because there's absolutely one in this book that you're like, oh, cool, that's an autocomplete battle tactic. Fun.
Yep.
Yeah, the banner's held high.
Banners held high. Just like
Yeah.
turn one, autocomplete, easy in a lot of scenarios. In a lot of scenarios.
Ask Jordan about that one. I think you know Tyler. He's been beat twice by Gargants and just by the battle tactic in the Gargant book, and there was no other ones that could be done. And so he gets real fired up when you mention that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed that's part of his that's one of his first triggers. Yeah.
So yes, we will continue to always and forever on this show say that all White Dwarf and book grand strategies and battle tactics should be thrown out by the TOs in all tournaments. They should be disallowed, period. So
Agree.
do it. Because it creates a ridiculously inequitous playing field for no reason whatsoever. And it's often buffing the armies that are already quite strong. It's just whatever. Anyways, so
There's an incredible mount trait, which I got to experience last night. A lot of fun. Soaring Guardian on Griffins. So that general on Griffin, who is apparently quite a beat stick. Dude tore through 10 Vindictors like they were nothing. They were on a 2-up save, stacking +3 against his -2 rend. 7 or 8 dead, one activation. I happen to roll that, but still, it was a bit of a shock. Yeah, so on first time it's slain.
That was a hot roll then. Because I fight that guy quite a bit, and he does not accomplish what you just said.
Aren't the beaks 4 damage, right? Like 2 of them?
Beaks are like 4 damage, yeah.
4 damage, yeah. And he just kept rolling dice. I mean, I kept rolling ones for him. So, yeah, anyway. The first time the model's slain, before moving from the battlefield, roll the dice. On a 1, it stays slain. On a 2-up, you get to return it anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 away for your opponent. And it heals up D3 wounds. And it doesn't have like the Signs of the Storm thing where you keep allocating. It just negates any additional damage that was done.
Right.
So awesome. That's extraordinary. Like in terms of, like healing, recovery.
I mean, it makes for a fantastic bully, right? Because then you're going to pull him back and then just start heroic recovering him like crazy or something like that. Like you're just going to pull him back into the back of your line.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, having a general that pops back up on a 2-up, we'll talk a little bit about 4-up pop backs a little later on. But having it on a 2-up is pretty reliable as things go.
Yeah, they have access to, like, isn't Seer Wounds like a D6 heal? Like, they have some good ways to heal him up too if he comes back to life. Like, that's legit.
Yeah, Hallowheart has the D6 wound heal, and then what is it? Living Cities also has a heal in their spell list off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think they got a D6.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I say Living Cities isn't good enough yet. Let's get, you got your Fulminators sneaking their way in. Now we can have an awesome general. Like, yeah, let's do it. Living Cities forever, I guess.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Jordan's been talking about that one, the Fulminators in Living City. That's I think Rocco was playing that too. Yeah, it's going to be cool stuff. Well, I don't know if it was him, but someone at Du Bois did have the Living City with that, and lots of Fulminators because they're just amazing, right?
Yeah, I thought Rocco did. I thought I saw Living City with 4 full, but yeah, maybe if he's in the chat. Yeah, that nice little power pair experience, with that thing and the Frostheart Phoenix. But I guess that's true. Like, about anything you run with the Frostheart Phoenix that's fast and keep up with is a good power pair with the -1 wound. Yeah, it's pretty tasty. And then the other mount trait, Foot of Breath, model with Black Dragon mount only. When the model attacks with Noxious Breath, inflicts 1 mortal wound for each roll of 5+ instead of each 6. I didn't look in terms of how many dice we're rolling there with Noxious Breath. Do you guys know offhand?
Yeah, so that's bad. That's a bad. That's a bad mount trait. Because it's a bad mount trait because it doesn't actually fix anything that needed to be fixed. What I mean by that is like the problem with the Black Dragon has never been, my Noxious Breath isn't damaging enough. So the way Noxious Breath works, you make 1 attack, you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models from the target unit that are in range of the attack. Okay? And this thing has, the Noxious Breath has a 6-inch range.
Ooh.
So, unless you're actually in combat with them, it's not going to be a huge number of models. In a non-horde edition, right? It just doesn't do that much. You're not rolling that many dice to begin with. And when you put them in combat, God forbid the sorceress get in there, like she's dead instantly because she's on a 5-up, but even the Dreadlord isn't that tough, right?
Yeah, it's got to be at least 10, if not 12, then maybe, but still, yeah, like you said. Sentinels, there's some things, Wardens, some things that you're still seeing 20s and that type of thing, but yeah, not great.
Oh, sure, but I hope that when you charge those Sentinels to get into combat with them, somebody else charged first.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you are in real trouble. Because you are going to get mortal wounded into oblivion. Like, you will cease existing at the end of that charge. Charging most Sentinels. But anyways, yeah, the Griffin trait, really good. Dragon trait, yep, still bad. Cool. Like, neat. I get on average against most units I'm going to breathe on 1 more mortal wound. Well, now they're on the level. That was what was stopping them from being good. I'll definitely be taking those over a Phoenix now.
Sure. All right, so those are the only images I saw. Did you guys see anything else with cities? I just saw those two.
No, that was it. I don't think there's anything else in there, really.
I just listened to Carl tell me on the way home from Du Bois, to be honest, about it. That's the only reason I know anything about them.
Gotcha. Right on. All right, we got a new MetaWatch article. So Dan.
Yes.
Great.
I have a picture for this with one of the interesting pictures out of here, but go ahead, keep talking.
Brilliant. Yeah. So thanks to Dan, and as usual, everybody involved in putting the stats together. Rob over there, the Honest War Gamer, all the work that he's doing. DKHM, if I got that acronym right, the work that they're doing, which I know Dan really pulled upon for this article. Yeah, so of course we're seeing a rise, as we would expect, and the results from Stormcast and Orc War Clans. Interesting. I do kind of wish they would still break out the Cruel Boys, Iron Jaws, rather than just that one big bucket. But whatever. And what else have we seen, guys, with this? I think we saw a drop off in Sons a little bit. And
Sons and Daughters being the biggest drops, right? As far as their 4+ win rate percentage. That little tick in Night Haunt. See that little tick in Night Haunt? Yeah. It's like one person.
Well, it's going to go up exponentially because I doubt it included the result from the weekend.
It did not, because this is only through the 8th of November, so this does not have this does not have Bill Sousa's result, if that's what you're pointing to, when he was running Night Haunt.
So may not have Bill's, but then there was a gentleman who got 5-0 over the weekend.
Oh yes, that's right. It's going to be massive percentage changes in the Night Haunt 4+ win.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So
shout out to
the ghosts are on the way back.
Way.
They're on the rise. People are discovering the power of ghosts. I mean, the best part about ghosts is all the extra command points you get. You don't have to worry about all out defense. So it's just a bunch of extra command points right there.
It's got to be it.
It's easy. But yeah, I mean, Stormcast shooting way up, Orc shooting way up. None of these things are surprising to me in any way. This is exactly what we expected. I'm not sure I expected Seraphon to see such a jump since the 4th of October. But
yeah,
okay. It aligns well for our show tonight to talk about why Seraphon are even still on the rise, clearly coming in strong into the new edition, right? So, yeah, good stuff. It's a cool article. A lot of great breakdowns. Dan did some really nice stuff as far as breaking down the completion percentage of things like grand strats and counts of battle tactics that were used, and percentage of battle tactics completed by round, and all sorts of things like that. So there's a lot of really juicy detail in there that I thought was really good. So
yeah, let's talk about the grand strat completion rate. So we had 73% first blood, 68% tectonic interference, 63 survival of the fittest, 73 power struggle, 58 foray. So Vince, we talked a lot about this, with the reference to the Ashcon schemes and the rates that we're looking for. What did you think about those completion rates?
I think we're
Is that higher or lower than you would expect?
a
Or
little
about
bit
right?
higher than I would expect, or well, it's about no, I shouldn't say that. It's
Mm,
a little bit lower than where I expected, but a little bit higher than where I'd want.
good one.
How
Okay.
about that?
Yeah.
I think it's still too easy, and especially this is part of the problem we're talking about with the Battle Tome and White Dwarf battle tactics is I think that most people are probably averaging 4 right now a game in most
Hmm.
games. Like obviously that's not to judge that data set. It's not the biggest data set, obviously, that those percentages are drawn from. But we
Hmm.
don't have a wider data set. But my inference would be we'd be probably, if you just looked across the board and kind of average, if we could just magically average everything together, my intuition is it'd be somewhere in the upper 70s. That's just my intuition.
Gotcha.
That's not backed up by any data.
Yeah.
So,
Rich, do you have any perspective on that?
I don't.
What do you see?
Battle plans. It comes to like. There's obviously your tough ones, and there's obviously your easier ones. Like the Vice is always one that's super tough. So when you're building your list, you need to think about these things. So that's
Mhm.
honestly one of the reasons why I ran the Bastiladon. I was really close to running long strikes because I just love allies and the long range. They're about the same range. Well, Bastiladon's a little less, but yeah, just being able to no matter what get monsters take over every game.
right.
Being able to get an extra point with broken ranks. When you're building your list, battle plans are definitely something you should think of, and then how many battle tactics you can actually get at those battle plans. So yeah, I also thought it was cool though that they wrote the percentages, and it was interesting to see what most people take. Obviously, not with prize sorcery and Beastmaster, we know which grand strats most people are taking, but yeah, interesting for sure with the battle plans and the tactics.
Yeah, the Feral
Yep.
Foray being the lowest sort of one was interesting to me, I suppose. I wouldn't have predicted that would have been the one that popped as the toughest. Like I
Mhm.
mean, I definitely agree on the Vice having some challenges, but your point about monstrous takeover is well suited, right? Like it really is a reason to have one monster in your list just because it's a free 2 points,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you
Yeah.
feel it when that gets cut off from you, when you're like, I can't do that one.
Hmm.
Yeah, on the tougher ones for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the most popular battle tactics at the event: Broken Ranks 152, Conquer 126, Aggressive Expansion 119, Ferocious Advance 107. I thought that'd be higher
Mm-hmm.
because we're all familiar with that one, usually round one, and Savage Spearhead 106, which was pretty interesting as well to see Savage Spearhead quite high up there. That's one where you got to get 2 units in your opponent's territory, and some of these maps can be a little challenging with the
Is
11-inch.
that was that how many they took or how many they completed the amount? I wonder because
That's probably how many they picked as opposed
because
to completed. Yeah.
because Savage Spearhead you're measuring that like you're getting Savage Spearhead,
Right.
whereas like
Yeah.
Broken Ranks is by far the most failed battle tactic, at least
Mhm.
that we have. Like how many times in the channel or how many times you have one skink that survives, or you know what I mean,
Right.
and like yes, or like with Parting Shot, like there's so many ways
Yeah.
to keep your battle line alive. If that is completed, it's like I definitely didn't think it was going to be that high because
And
Mhm.
yes,
Broken.
Dan just confirmed in the chat, by the way, that it's completed. That's what it is.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
wow.
Wow.
it
So just
doesn't
getting
surprise
that,
me, I suppose, because I mean, every time I pick broken ranks, for the most part, when I'm not having a stroke or something, it's when there's like 3 dudes left in a unit, you're going to clean up,
yeah,
Mhm.
right? You like, there's almost always at some point in the game some battle line unit that is horrendously depleted, has like 3 normal little dudes left, and you're like, yep, it's
Yeah.
broken ranks. I'm gonna kill this unit. So you got three
Mhm.
yeah.
guys left.
Just with
Mhm.
redeploy too, though. Like I don't know. I guess it's something that I just really try to do when I'm often when someone's picking their battle tactic and they're like going in between broken ranks or should I do something else, and in my head I'm like, oh, pick broken ranks, pick broken ranks. I might have a chance at redeploying and then you
Mhm.
failing a 4-inch or 5-inch charge. You
Sure.
know what I mean? If you have shooting or other ways to make sure you kill that battle line unit, then that makes sense. But
Right.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of people, that's your first go-to, right? You're gonna just be like, I'll shoot at these things with whatever it takes to get those 2 points, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like it is a good use of my power projection if I can just pick these idiots up.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of the pieces of this to wrap it up. They had the breakdown of the minutes remaining milestones that they started doing at Warmer
Yeah,
World, which
yeah,
I
yeah.
really like. I think that's pretty cool. So, 165 minutes, start of the round. 5 minutes in, you should have your pregame discussion decision finished. Deployment should be completed, 10 minutes later. I think that's useful in doing call outs. I heard a number of people actually comment who went to the events and they really appreciated these various call outs that Steve Wren was doing. So yeah, and then of course we got Ben Johnson's incredible Stormcast list getting highlighted here. It's just a beautiful list. Dracothian Guard for days.
You gotta love it. By the way,
Yeah.
update. Dan went back and double checked. It was actually chosen, not completed. So there we go.
Okay,
That makes more sense.
Okay, there we go. There we go. This is breaking news coming in from the chat. So thank you, Dan, for confirming. Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good article. I liked a lot of the detail in there. I would love to see that kind of information scaled up, way up, right? Like I'd love it if we could get that kind of level of detail at a macro scale, because I think it would be very, like I think it'd just be powerful to know, right?
Plain.
All right, cool. Anything else we got?
I think that's it, bud.
There we go. Thus endeth the news. All right, let's talk about some pick of the week. Pick of the week. Ridge, what do you want to share with everybody?
Pulled a little bit of a Tyler and did more than one pick of the weeks here, but no, I just wanted to highlight just some of the podcasts that I listen to, and just friends that I've made pretty much. So yeah, Rage of Sigmar, first of all. Joe Jacob, just awesome dudes. I know, Vince, you were just on an episode. I just love how they're just super funny and, not always right on with Age of Sigmar. It's a little bit of a mix, so it's nice. So yeah, I just wanted to say them. And then Party at the All Points, you guys actually had on a bit ago as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dayton, Bud, and Tristan, Canadian boys, love them. I actually just finally met Dayton and Joe and a lot of those guys just at the boys. So it's just so nice when you chat with people for so long on Discord or just different things, and then finally meeting in person. It was like, yeah, just so awesome. So shouts to them. And then the last one actually is one that I listened to for a long time, the Ever Chosen podcast. I think, Tyler, you might have mentioned him before too.
Yeah, big fan of those guys, yeah.
Yeah, so Jeremy, I've talked to before on Twitter here and there. I know he played Seraphon and whatnot. So just, getting into the hobby, I loved it because it was one of the only ones that talked competitively and about tournaments and about pairings and, who took out events. And I felt like I know more about the Texas scene than I knew about like anywhere else. So just kind of funny. And now that Matt Taylor is on there as well, and then Marco, his buddy, they're just great, got good charisma between them and whatnot. So I think that one's an awesome one as well. And then just a quick shout out too, just for Caleb Hastings. So before we even get into the video, he's pretty much the Seraphon guru with everything. I think he's from Texas as well. But that's just another quick little, pick of the week with him. So if you haven't seen any of his stuff, just Caleb Hastings on YouTube, especially if you're starting out to play Seraphon, just a great place. He has like videos about, the best units to take an artifact, the best units to take with certain things. Just like great overall pretty much for Seraphon.
Nice. Awesome. Tyler, what do you got?
That's how you do it, folks.
All linked below, by the way.
Proud of you. All right, so you mentioned Dayton, actually. I saw just before the show, he had this great rant on Twitter so he watched, like a lot of us, Arcane on Netflix. Arcane, based on League of Legends, which I knew absolutely nothing about. I knew it was a Dota or whatever the heck those are called. And this show, not saying anything new, it was phenomenal. Like the character development, the animation, just amazing. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If you're a nerd, you're going to love it. He had a breakdown. He posted a photo, or somebody did, of this. I guess it looks like a chat that he had with somebody. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. I think it's a really great point. I can't read all of it. So Arcane League of Legends just shows me how it's done, and that GW blanked up. Make a great animation show, showcasing to the world the game, the world that your game belongs to. Make it accessible to the masses through a program everybody already knows. That is, put it on Netflix. Let them love it. Then a few will follow it into getting more details about it, and introduce them to the game and play. Instead, GW makes it so that the only ones who watch their content are the ones who already know about it. Of course, he's referring to Warhammer TV, making their market smaller than would be otherwise. And so I just love this point. I mean, maybe that's part of their strategy is that we're going to, there's actually a show in the works on Netflix or somewhere that's going to be coming out in the coming years. But that really resonated with me, like his basic point. Like, this is the way to do it if you want to open up to new audiences and really grow this community. So I just wanted to share that if anybody hadn't seen it.
No, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, I had a couple. I had a game this weekend, and one of my buddies was like all talking that show up and down. He was way into it. Yeah, and he's not watching anything on Warhammer Plus, so there you go. I mean, it's pretty much that simple,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of a lot of the content on Warhammer Plus. It's just I thought he made an important point in terms of if they really want to grow their audience, like Arcane is showing you what's possible. So anyhow, right. Coach did an amazing show with Noah, I think the guy's name is. I'm not familiar with him. Really sharp dude. He talking Stormcast. So he had a sort of off-kilter, off-meta takes on Stormcast. I mean, the dude was like singing the praises of what Vanquishers could potentially do. So I highly recommend checking it out for the
bless him.
Yeah,
that is definitely a left field pick.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, really, really good show. Sharp guy. And also wanted to give a shout out to the fellow who Marty Orlando worked with to create this extraordinary piece of Lumineth art, Cleveland Mosher. So sent you a link, Vince, to his page. Just an artist who took this infamous, I think, Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition cover art for High Elf Battle Tome or High Elf Army Book. Yeah. One of the classic images, and Marty had him create a Lumineth version of that. Rich, have you seen this?
He showed me and told me about it actually when we met there at Du Bois. So yeah, it was awesome looking. Just crazy that someone take the time to do it in his scheme, like his army scheme. So yeah, it was super cool.
Absolutely. And if I had been better prepared, I would have had the name of the original artist who did the original cover. But it's all there in the links. So definitely go check that out to kind of find out more about the backstory and give this artist some love. Just want to give him a shout out. I was blown away by that art piece and just in general, Marty's army. Like seeing that display board he put together, he took out Best Painted at Du Bois. Extraordinary work. And good on you, Marty, for all of the effort that you put into that army. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. It's like seeing stuff like that in person too. It's you can really, really see the detail and the story and everything.
Yeah.
Nice. My pick is for the Stormkeep, who was on the show recently. They did a show about list building with Stormcast, which was really good. So check it out if you're looking for more Stormcast love. As you can see from the chart, they are the most increasing percentage. So jump on the hype train now. Okay, somebody's got to kill those Seraphon.
Yeah, let's wait for the dragons.
Get if you start playing now, you can say you did it before the dragons came out. That's why you you're not just dragon bandwagoning. So yeah, that's my pick. Check it out. Episode, all that is linked down in the description. And as we head into hobby time, don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit all those buttons, as it says up in the corner of the screen. Hitting buttons is fun. Click buttons. Just click around on the screen. You'll probably hit the thumbs up. There you go.
Okay, so real quick, Vince, since Reg was thoughtful to not plug his own channel that he's a part of, we've obviously got to mention him. It's part of the duty, mine in particular on this channel.
Yes.
Every show that I'm on to Season of War. If for some reason there's a soul out there who watches this show that doesn't know about it, it is one of the greatest battle report channels on the internet, hands down. 40K, whatever. It's phenomenal. I don't get paid to say this. And Ridge, when I saw you on, I was excited, dude, because you bring a lot to the channel, and really grateful for everything you guys are doing over there. It's been amazing to see.
The main reason I didn't is because Tyler, you gave us enough plugs on most of the other shows, and I know some of the other people do, so it's like just super funny. But no, yeah, Jordan's obviously very appreciative of it. We're a competitive team here in Canada, but Jordan does so much work, and I know I've chatted about it multiple times. We're just starting to do a little bit more of like live streaming now too. Like he just had a live stream with Cass, actually, his wife, who does the narration for us. So she's getting into it as well, which is fun. So we're going to get more into a little bit of live streaming and stuff like that. But yeah, if you haven't checked it out, for sure. We just want to really focus on like competitive Warhammer. and just the tactics behind it. We really talk out what we do, reasons why we don't do things, reasons why, just to help people learn, and obviously amazing reception, and it's just fun too. I just love going, and I play games with Jordan, who's one of the best, players probably the best I've ever played with. So it's like, yeah, it's fun stuff.
Vince doesn't like when you curse on this show. I've found out over the years. So
Correct.
One of my favorite parts is when, Ridge, you have a curse word that slips out. I kind of gather that like the member only channel is more of the PG-13 and up version of Season of War. But you try to keep it a little cleaner on the main channel. So I enjoy that.
Yeah, don't listen to my part at the All Points episode if you have, but it's I didn't even realize I was talking after the date, and I'm like, I listened to it back. I'm like, wow, was I actually swearing that much? Like, it's crazy. You don't even realize, just, I don't know, but no, that's funny.
All right, so let's talk some hobby time. Ridge, what have you been working on, man? Now that you're back, obviously you had a busy weekend. But what's been on your table? Did you have anything getting ready for the tournament? You back in Jazz to paint some? What's happening?
Yeah, so I played Fangs at Red Harvest, and I had 4 Salamanders, and then I had 1 for summoning. So because I was playing Dracothians this with more Sallies, I really wanted them to match. So I just finished up the 2 Sallies for that. So I was running 2x3 Salamanders. So I had pink ones, purple ones. So now I have blue ones because I paint with a lot of pink, purples, and blues for my whole like asterism-y, starry themes. So yeah, I finished them up. I painted up Duralia, which I call Duraliza. Shout to Jacob for helping me with that name. But she was just amazing. So I just finished her up. I used just this skink head from the Starblood Stalkers. I can't remember which one. It was like the one that has its mouth open and it's kind of straight up. But yeah, that was a sweet warband because I also used the Skink Priest from that one because the sculpt is just amazing of the guy holding the orb up. So yeah, I finished those 2 off. That was pretty much the only prep. I had the Bacillin. I had most of the other stuff done. I did spruce up my bases a bit, so I used a bunch of different little shields and swords and different stuff to like put around. And I actually did a display board, Vince. So shouts to you. I watched your display board video, and I pretty much based off the pink foam, like did all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I made like a temple in the one corner, and then the other corner I had my Realm Shaper with like the Stormcast, which it's from I think the Warcry kit. It's got like the Stormcast pillars. Yep. So I actually did a display board for the first time, like an actual full out. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks with a lot of work, and it was like super rewarding to actually get it finished. And I put on Twitter and everything. My whole theme was when I had Gotrek, he's holding up a blot toad. So my Gotrek is like themed with a blot toad. And I just kind of thought of like the Lion King theme. So when he's holding up the blot toad, like it's Simba on top of this mountain, and then all of the skinks and salamanders and everything are like looking up towards him as like my kind of display board idea. Yeah. So I did the same thing. I just put Duralia up there instead of Gotrek because I was running a different list. But yeah, so pumped for Nurgle though. Like I said, after I get through this stuff, I have a Glotkin. I have Jordan bought me new Guo. I have like a bunch of other Blight Kings and things. So I'm going to probably delve into some Nurgle after. But yeah,
nice.
Rich, did I hear right that you forgot your display board?
I might have. Yeah, I didn't want to bring it. No, so when we left,
he made a display board. Probably forgot it at the tournament. Yes.
I don't know if you've got a public explanation that you can share on how that happened.
100%. I was, I put it on Twitter anyway, so really who cares? I left my display board there, and yeah, if you hear this, T.O. from Du Bois, it's one of the guys there that was organizing messaged him an email, and I'm just waiting. I haven't heard back, but I left. After I won, I was just ready to have beers and go hang out with the guys and whatnot. So Jordan was doing a little interview with Marty. So I ended up leaving and left my display board just in the conference room. So when I left, I didn't realize. And then I went back Monday and I kind of went and asked, and we went to a few different people, and she said, no, I thought maybe they would have left it in a different room, but they didn't. So it's somewhere in, I don't know, in the USA. So maybe next year or next
if you find a rogue Seraphon display board anywhere in the upstate New York area, please return it to Ridge. That's what we're saying here. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can't, Yeah, well, obviously it costs money to get the everything to go get it. Even if I could, it's like, and I'm not playing many tournaments now because, like I told you guys, I have hip surgery coming up, so I'm going to be out of
Yeah.
commission for at least a month or two, hoping to make LVO. So we'll see, but yeah, I don't know, not a huge deal. As you guys can imagine, I'm a very, very casual, laid back kind of guy. So.
Mm.
Sucks. I did a lot of work. Like I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that, but I would much rather that than my thousands of dollars of my army.
Sure. Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. All right. Well, a shame, but hopefully someone finds it and it works its way back to you. I saw it on Twitter. It looked very nice. I thought you did a great job on it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Tyler,
Yeah.
still not
We had
painting,
a
right? Still no
not
painting?
painting, obviously.
Okay. Just
I've
checking.
got something to tell you, which we'll just save it in terms of some people have I can't mention it right now. We'll come back to that later on.
Okay.
So we had a team RTT last weekend, which is a lot of fun. Had 10 teams show up, so 20 folks. That was pretty cool. Wasn't expecting that many. And it turned out Zinch, so my friend and I, Bryce, we took Zinch and Iron Jaws. And who knew? That's a pretty strong combo. We were told by my co-TO that Sons of Behemat and Iron Jaws would be filthier than Zinch and Iron Jaws. So it's all his fault. We were strong-armed into playing that combo. We had no choice, clearly.
How many pinks?
How many pinks? Yes. All right. So it was it was nice being on the giving rather than the receiving end of Kairos for once. That model is ridiculous. What that thing does in the game, which everybody probably knows. But yeah, it was hilarious being on the other end of that. 10 pinks, 3 screamers plus the 6 screamers for host. Kairos Changecaster. Changecaster went crazy as he likes to do with his getting extra cast whenever you do 9-up casts. That was fun. Yep. A cabbage with the usual fast and amulet. I think I did the D3 Mortal Wound Impact. 6 pigs, Vince, who were extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. In that
all it took was them getting Red Neg 2 for them to work for you. That's clearly what the difference was.
Insane.
100% undercosted.
Yep.
But yeah, so we had a nice 3-0 first place showing on that, so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, thanks to Trav, my fellow co-conspirator, for that. But yeah, good weekend.
Well, it turns out that a Killy offensive melee army combined with like a power projection ranged castle army in teams is a pretty good combination. I don't know if people have caught into this yet, but it turns out those two things work well together.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Can Kairos use the dice for you as well, or what was that ruled?
Oh, we didn't. We did not. Oh
No.
Gosh, we could have been filthier. Wow. We did get to use it, very appropriate for this show, to force a dead toad to miscast.
Oh.
Or the immortal toad to miscast. That was the moment of the weekend for me. Yeah.
Croak, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was fun. But yeah.
For myself, it's another busy hobby week. Working on one thing I can't share with everybody, but we're finished this girl up right here, who's going to be way too small to show properly. But this is a Venari Blade Lord.
Lord, you got it.
Okay, there you go. I did that. So this is for Marty. He had won the have me paint something from Meph's stream, so I finished that up. Okay, look at this. I picked this girl because she's got this beautiful open stance, right? You can see how her swords are way out or whatever, like her swords are big and ridiculous. And then after I painted it and I finished it yesterday, I was like, now what? How do I ship this back to him? What do I wrap this ridiculous thing in to make it not break in transit? I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
1 million pounds of saran wrap.
Yeah, like
But
just very carefully.
Having done obviously commissions, my favorite so far that I've seen is toilet paper as the principal wrap.
That might be a good idea. It's just it's very problematic. But I'll get it shipped out this week. And then I also converted up my Ratchian Carthalos here, our big boy. He's ready to go. The big Chad himself of the Ratcast will be ready to roll out. I don't have him primed or painted or anything yet. I just got him finished converting today. He's got his little rat tail poking out from beneath his robes and a nice head, and I switched his hammer for the big giant glaive because all my guys have glaives. And yeah, so I've got him going, and excited about that dude. Gonna get into him.
Is that from the Clawlord Island of Blood weapon?
I don't. It's one of the. Yeah, it's. I think so. Yes, it's one of the Clawlord.
Yep, I recognize it because I have a few of them, and I'm a huge Skaven nut. So, like I told you, man, I'm so pumped that it looks so nice.
I'm real excited about him. Let's be honest. I freaking love Bastion Carthalos or whatever. Like I've been playing hammers mostly. Like I'm using a hammers rule set, and boy, I'm excited to have him show up and just start smashing face and doing everything he does. So. What was
the bet for, Vince? If you don't mind me asking, with Marty, what did?
Oh, it wasn't a bet. It was for the Rantathon. It was Matt's mental health charity stream. There was a raffle giveaway for me to paint a model for someone, and I ended up sticking on for 2 additional hours because the next guest wasn't available, and then so I ended up just saying, hey, in this hour I'll paint something else. I had to do 2 figs. The first one was for Brendan, and I gave that to him at Holy Havoc. So that was for his crematorian boss. And then now this is done. So all those things are cleared off my plate. Finally, I can get... and now it's just back to a million other things to paint. Anyways.
Oh, for my next 1,000 points, your table's cleared off, ready to go.
Yeah.
By the way, I've been.
You can forget about that completely. There is a video I made completely on how to do that scheme. You want to pay more, Tyler? Either watch the video or direct your commission painter to watch that video. Those are your choices.
I've been enjoying all the comments I'm accepting on your behalf about this beautiful Ironjawz army. So thank you.
Happy to help, buddy. Happy to help. All right. So, gentlemen, are we ready to get into some Seraphon?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Okay. All right. Let's bring up some Seraphon here.
Rich, before I forget, Doralia, thumbs up, thumbs down over the weekend.
Oh, crazy, man.
Way up.
She popped a Hurricaneum game 1. She popped a Cathalar game 2. What was game 3? Yeah, she was, man, Out of the Realm Shaper. Doesn't count as a move, so you get +1 to hit and a +1 attack on her crossbow. So I was doing best day ever on her, like usually turn 1 because I don't care about CP. So, and then she's already +1 to hit, so she's 2s and 2s, -2, 4 damage against wizards, 2 shots.
Ooh. Yeah, I was excited when I saw her in your list. When I saw that pick, that's a great pick.
She's a hot pick. I love her. I love her so much. She's great. Yeah. Okay, so Seraphon. Let's get into it. This army continues to like grow in its meta winning percentage. It is been powerful basically since it got its book, and continues to be just a dominating force in the meta. I think we can all agree on that.
Yep.
So here's my summary of it, and then I want to throw over to you, Ridge. My summary is it's an extremely varied force, and it plays really well in 3.0 for a mix of different reasons. It's got, on the hero front, it's got really strong monster heroes, as well as just good regular heroes, like in general, both monster and non-monster. It's got great magic, has a lot of very potent utility coming out of especially its tiny heroes. Like, amongst your hero section, there's just quality through and through, right? No matter kind of what you're trying to achieve. Troops, you've got both solid battle line options in both swarms and monsters. Unusually, you actually have quite a few monsters that have pretty potent ranged attacks, which is really powerful for things like battle tactic completion. Because normally your monsters, to complete a battle tactic, they need to kill this unit or something like that. Well, they got to get the bonus point. They got to go walk over there and do it. But plenty of the units that are in Seraphon can just be like, nah, I'm going to get the bonus point from here. But pow! And the power projection on big monsters that are efficiently pointed is pretty rare, right? Other than like a breath weapon that does almost no damage. Let's be honest. That's most monsters' ranged attacks, right?
Yep.
They have a lot. Speaking of range, they have a good deal of ranged power, so varied units. There's a lot of different types of ways to project power in the army, both through magic and through shooting. And then they're quite versatile. So, even as the meta has changed, as some of the underlying construction has changed, right? Like, you might not be able to do the same big skink clouds anymore as you used to be able to do, or you might not be as incentivized to have big skink clouds as we go into 3.0 or whatever. But it doesn't matter. The army has a deep enough bench that it's able to still play in a lot of different ways, bring a lot of different units onto the table, all of which can bring a good amount of value. They can go mixed arms, they can go monster mash, they can go ranged heavy, they can do a board control play, right? And they have strong allegiance abilities to support sort of each of these strategies. That's my summation. Did I miss anything there, Rich? What do you think about that summary?
And they have one of the best terrain pieces in the game, and not just for its ability, but its ability to pair with Comet and other ranged mortals, other ranged things, but even more so, especially in this meta, it's unbelievable at area denial. So, deploying your units around the Realm Shaper and in between terrain, you can't fit. I know with Tyler, your Maw Crushers, like, you can't fit those pie plates anywhere where I have units like that. Like, it's so good at denying that, hiding your heroes. Like, oh man, yeah. But no, other than that, yeah, you hit it right in the nose. It's the synergy. It's all of the abilities, which people get so mad because you don't have to roll for them. 6 to wound, doing an additional mortal, a 3-up to give +1 save, run, shoot, and charge, a +1 to hit until next hero phase. Like, just so many things. And then as well, they just get so many CP. That's one of the other only things that I would say. Like, just you're always running a Slan, or sometimes with the Starseer as well. They have -1 +1 save. They just have a way to. They have 3d6 charge. There's just a way to pretty much do everything in the book. And it's been pointed out a little bit better now. Things have went up. Not enough, in my opinion, obviously, with certain models like Salamanders and things like that. But compared to AoS 2, I think right away people were, because of how strong they were in AoS 2, it was just unbelievable that like anyone lost any games playing Fang's AoS 2. Like, how strong it was to Balewind Hop and use Croak to do mortal wounds everywhere. Right. And I was on the way home, we were talking, I was just thinking to myself, like, I remember having 40 skinks, a pack of 3 salamanders and 20 chameleon skinks, and dropping all of that down. And you know what I mean? It was wild that was actually a thing you could do.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So, but all the rest of that, yeah, that's definitely accurate. I'm still a huge fan of the skinks. I honestly think a 30 pack of skinks is still super viable. The reason being, you can have two packs of salamanders, so you have like your pack to do a lot of rend. Then you have your multitude of shots, because there are a lot of models like Gotrek and other things that you need to be able to do a lot of no rend damage and just put that damage through. Even like I was looking at Bill Souza's list, I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Like, he doesn't care about my salamander rend, right? But if I did a multitude of shots, then they're going to go down to that way easier. So there's a lot of, maybe not the top meta stuff, but there's a lot of models that don't like a multitude of shots and then a multitude of Moonstone clubs as well. But yeah, there's obviously, just a good overview in general.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll say that it's funny how impactful a small change can be. Like, the Realm Shaper went from one of the worst terrain pieces in the game, because it was basically unusable. You would just kind of have to set it in the middle of the table and hope, basically. Yeah. To one of the best terrain pieces in the game in the jump to 3.0, where they were like, oh no, actually, here you go. We'll let you use your terrain piece. Right? And just the instantaneous change that had on the army. I completely agree.
So good pairing it with the mortals. Like, there's so many ways to get ranged mortals. And I can't tell you how many times I've just got lucky and rolled a 3 on the Comet and 3 on the Realm Shaper, and then there goes your hero. It's
Right. Yep. Okay. So, cool. Tyler, do you think I missed anything? Is there anything else we should talk about here at the summary level?
That's good, man.
Right on. Okay. Let's talk about the numbers. So we saw some of the numbers earlier. Here's some of the breakdown. Now, this isn't quite as fresh. This isn't as hot and fresh, I think, as the October 8th data. This is like 1 week before that. This is 1 week older data, I think. But still quite, important. Because I think they're even higher now, which is shocking somehow. But
Yeah.
Seraphon are riding at the second highest 4+ win rate overall as of this data set. That's only probably like either second or third now. They have a very strong meta percentage in being fourth place in their representation in the meta, which is also quite strong. And then being basically tied for third in the number of 5 wins as of this item. So, and again, all of these numbers have just kept going up. We've seen, again, we're going to add one more 5+ win as of last weekend to this result at minimum because of Ridge right there, right? It's going to go from 8 to 9 on that alone. So, when I look at these numbers, let me ask this question, okay, just on this alone. Seraphon, as of this, has sort of the highest placing 4+ win percentage, and they've been going up. Suns, who was the previously highest, has gone down. They were the second biggest drop, right, since October 4th. Okay? But Seraphon, who I will remind everybody was in second place to only Suns, is still on an upward trajectory. So here is the question, Ridge, and I think you already hinted at this.
Yep.
Is this army too good right now?
I think the meta has shifted as well. As soon as Gargants became a problem, everyone went, okay, that automatically became a thing that you had to deal with in your list. So the first thing you ask yourself is, okay, can I kill Archaon, Nagash, something with save stacking, and Gargants? If I can't, what can I do in my list to make me be able to do that? So a lot of armies have had to ask that question, switch their list, do that type of thing. And then now some of them might be better at killing Gargants, or, that's, I think, why you see the drop in Gargants having that high. The reason I think Seraphon is just, like you said earlier, they're just so diverse. You can bring lists that do so many things, and especially with battle tactics and other things like that. Meta-wise, I think a lot of people play them because they're strong, obviously, and they have a lot of things to do. But also, people just like playing Seraphon. Like, there's so many people. Even you, Vince, I know you love playing the Thunder Lizards, and
I do.
So it's like it's a fun army. A lot of people, it's nostalgic. And if you have an army like that, that's also very good, and you have a lot of variance, there's nothing better. Like, I think of Skaven as well. Like, maybe they're not the best in the meta right now, but for me, I love armies that you have 20 or 30 different models to pick from, and you can find different synergies and play what you kind of want to play, and then when they're just that good, then that's when you see those types of armies that they're able to do that well in the meta.
Yeah, to me, I don't think, like, there's some stuff in this army that, I'm gonna be honest, drives me a little crazy. Okay.
Yep.
Like, but before I say that, Tyler, what's your general feelings on Seraphon? I'll get into my little picadillos in a moment. What's your general feeling?
Rich hit the important point, which is that my anchor was too many games on TTS in 2020 against Seraphon, which was just a nightmare experience. So I have that, as my starting point. So relative to that, Seraphon has felt strong, but not out of bounds to me when I played them. But now I haven't necessarily been playing, I haven't gotten many tournaments this year, unfortunately, so I haven't been playing a lot of top lists. But I've been playing my friend Dan. He plays Seraphon quite a bit. I've played with some other players. I've been playing some good lists. So I feel like I got a decent feel for what they do, playing the coalesced option and Starborn. That's the other one, I think. The summoning, the teleporting. Yeah. So they felt more fair. I think, these numbers are saying they could probably get pared down a little bit, but I don't feel like they need to get pared down too much.
Okay.
They've generally felt sort of, right on the cusp in terms of whether they're in bounds or out of bounds.
Yeah, they just rode under the wave, I honestly think, like, just because of how strong they were before. People just immediately are just like, only 30 skinks, not 40. Or, only 2 salamanders, not 3. It was like, or only 10 chameleons, not 20. It's like, but like, that's still really good. Like 30 skinks fully shooting with the mortals and charging with 3d6 and fully, you know what I mean, doing that in combat is still very, very good. It's just not as good as it was. So they got underneath of the, the S tier, as you will, which I'm not sure. I still think that they're S tier, but I could see them being in A tier as well. And then again, it comes to a lot of who's playing them, what your comfortability is, blah blah, all that stuff. But
Yeah, like part of my experience with Seraphon Ridge is watching you play them a lot on the channel that I mention all the time on this show, and you're clearly very experienced playing them. But usually the games, like I haven't watched you playing them where you play them well, where I feel like you're doing things that to me feel out of bounds. Relative to, like, this is all in the context, like, we're not talking about casual play, we're all talking like competitive play, yada yada
Sure.
yada.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So for what that's worth, but
yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, normally I'm playing Jordan first of all, so he's
Sure.
very, very good. But
Yes.
or his Lumineth lists,
Right.
But other times when I'm playing, they're maybe not necessarily my top cream tournament list that I'd be playing. But even when I do play those, yeah, I agree. I'm not absolutely stomping him or those types of things, because there are still some lists that do that, which the new Dracothian Salamander list is one of those ones that, if you can give away first and double, there's no army I think that can take that. Like, you're winning. So
Which is going to be the next. I mean, I know we're going to get in this list, but I don't know if I would be curious, like, at a high level, like the TLDR at the top here, like, what in your mind are the archetypes? So, like, you look at the Stormcast book, 4 Fulminators, 6 Long Strikes. That's an archetype.
Yep.
That you can immediately run to, right? So I'm guessing the Sally Spam would be one of the archetypes right now.
That's the Draco. That's the Draco list. Yeah. And Vince, your boy Smorgan is loving it. He's running, I think, like 9 or 10 salamanders, and it's so good. Like I said, if you can give away first, the only thing that beats that is obviously a 1-drop, because you can't get it to a 1-drop. But if you can give away first and then
2-drop,
double battle regiment, which you'll see, that's the list I have. So that's your one archetype, and then your other archetype is your Fangs, 30 Skinks, 2 Sallies, and I haven't actually seen this really ran anywhere, and I'm still that's like my list that I still think is the best. But I run Gotrek in with it as well, who is just so good, and I'm sure we'll chat about that later when it comes up as well. And then your third archetype is your Thunder Lizard. Well, then that one, there's a bunch. A lot of people are playing different lists. Some have 2 Bastiladons, some have 1. I personally like the 1 Bastiladon with the more Stegodons. And then you still need to have, at least 1 2-pack of Salamanders, because all of that has 1 rend, as you probably know, Vince, because you play the dinos a bunch. There's a problem when you only have 1 rend. So you need ways, which one of my ways is to run the Starseer for the +1/-1 save. So that's a pick against Gargants, because if you can make a Gargant -1 to save, now all your Stegodons are 2 rend. So, and then, so I would say that's kind of the third archetype. And then Kodos Claw, it's like, there was a really good player actually at Du Bois that was running Kodos Claw. I think he finished top 10, and he was running a bunch of Saurus Knights and a Carnosaur and all that. So, like, they're still really good too, because just Coalesced -1 damage is just
such a big deal. Such a big deal.
So good. So I think all 4, and that's kind of what I'm onto. Like, I'm playing Thunder Lizards, and that's going to be my next kind of venture. I want to try to play in tournaments and stuff, and see which I know I can, because people have already been doing well with them. So it'll be interesting. But Kodos, I think, still, there might be some game. It's obviously just, I think, the weakest of the 4.
Yeah. I agree with everything you just said there. My picadillos with this army so I'll say 2 things. I see a lot of people often complain about their ability to protect utility heroes, 5-wound utility heroes, right?
Yeah.
And anytime that conversation comes up, I don't mean this in the context of Seraphon. This is just sort of a general thing, like, oh, my utility hero gets shot and killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes what people run to when they have that discussion is, oh, heroes just shouldn't be able to get shot if they're near a unit, right? They want, like, the 40k version of the rule where you can't target the hero if the unit's closer or whatever.
Yeah.
And all I can think in my head is, do you want Seraphon to have a 70% win rate? Because that's how you give Seraphon a 70% win rate, right?
Yeah.
If you couldn't pick off their little utility heroes that have, like, insane force multiplier effects,
yep,
right? Then that army would just go ham instantaneously. If those little skinkerdoos became immune to basically being removed, right?
Yeah.
By anything except melee.
Yeah, that makes me think of the mirror. That's what right away I'm like, that's one of the matchups that I'm kind of scared of, right? Because, or even the funniest thing was game 5 of Du Bois, actually, I didn't cast at all because Caleb had the Lord of Change. So
Sure.
I didn't want him to unbind my Comet and then be able to cast Comet onto my heroes.
Right.
So I just didn't even cast with my slam. I just withheld my one spell, and there you go.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things that like, I just, there always needs to be some way to pick heroes off. It's just finding the right balance between making them not auto done with any amount of shooting, right? Where it's just like, oh, I incidentally shoot at them and kill them. Nobody wants that, because that then becomes very unfun very fast.
Yeah.
And then, but also like, so they need to be somewhat survivable, but just not survivable under a concerted effort, right? Like, and Seraphon are like the living explanation of why that's relevant, right?
Yeah.
But it's just a complete aside. Like, Seraphon are just sort of the emblematic case of powerful utility, weaker heroes.
What
There
do
are
you
other
do
armies that do the same thing, but
what do you do to fix that, though, is like a question I would ask you. Like, what, like, make the Realm Shaper only do one mortal instead of D3, or like to get away, make Comet, I guess the Comet is just so strong, like against heroes and stuff. I don't know. I that would be something for sure that could be addressed, because it is very strong, and a lot of people do hate that, obviously. All the
yeah, well, I
little
mean,
heroes getting killed.
you're getting to one of the real challenges there, right? Which is, even if you made them sort of untargetable, it's hard to believe they'd be in a place where they couldn't get incidentally splashed by mortal wounds, like mortal wound AoE type stuff, which, by the way, I'm willing to bet Nurgle's going to have a fair amount of too.
Yep, probably.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, money's on that's going to be the case. So even if you like, the problem with that solution is it wouldn't even fix the problem, right? Because all it would mean is that there's this cast of armies, Seraphon being one of them, but probably New Nurgle. There's a couple others that just don't need to target. They just go poop, 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 poop. Here's a bunch of mortal wounds in an area.
Yeah.
Your heroes are all dead, right? Like, I don't know if you played like any new Stormcast that were running a semi-strat like that at all yet, Ridge, but you can absolutely, between like the Vexilor with the Meteoric Standard and like a Prime, or the Knight Venators or whatever with their orbital strikes, like, it's very easy to call down just area D3 mortal wounds repeatedly in that army that you'll just clear out. Yeah, I targeted nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Other than a
Do you know
point
what?
on the battlefield, and every 5-wound hero is now dead.
Do you know what those are also, Vince? Great Seraphon allies.
Sure.
The Night Judicator. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jordan's got his Dragonborn one, and I've thought about, but he's just like 205. So I'm like, yeah, Prime is obviously awesome. You saw that in AoS too. People were running Prime and Fangs. Like, he was just the amount of mortals you do with Comet, with the Realm Shaper, with all these things.
Right.
Stormcast has maybe the best allies to do that. So yeah, for sure.
Yep. So, it's always a balancing act, and I do think that there's probably still some work, because lookouts are so completely irrelevant in the current 3.0 meta. Like, I think we are still erring a little too much on the side of they're too easy to kill. I don't know what the general fix to that is, because there's a lot of different problems you have to attack there, right? It's not just targeted shooting, it's a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, back to Seraphon. My main problem with Seraphon is, one, their utility buffs are too good. The things we just talked about, like, they're just too good. They're often too automatic, and they're just too stacky. Now, I like the design of this book. I don't think it's Lumineth bad, but boy, is it a lot.
Yeah, it's just too much.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do everything.
It's too much and both.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much. That's such a great way to say it. It's funny, because when I run the Thunder Lizards list that I run, for me, it's all about playing the fun Timmy Time adventure, where, like, how much can I make my Skink Chief on Stegadon become a engine of absolute and utter destruction to go destroy everything that stands in my way, right? And that guy, when fully buffed, will just do an immense amount of damage, like an unreasonable amount of damage.
The new mount trait, you must be pro the new mount trait.
100%, yes.
What's it do?
Oh my God! Yeah,
just another attack, or run and charge if you want it, which has some cool implications. But yeah.
So, but like, to calc the attacks on that guy, I have to go every round and go, okay, well, I've got this bonus. This is just like, here's the one that's just to the jaws, and then this one is to the guy, and these are only to the mount, and this to this and this, and then this is adding to this. And I'm like, okay, so I went from like a fairly underwhelming attack profile to like 5 attacks with this, and 7 attacks with this, and 4 attacks with this, all at multi-damage, and it's like, and I had to stack a ton of different stuff to get there.
Yeah.
Right? But it's so much. It's just so much layers on. You have layer upon layer upon layer of rules. It's not Lumineth bad, but it ain't far off.
That's fair. It should just be on rolls. Like a few of the 5 up or the 5s to wound doing an additional mortal.
Right.
I could see that on a 3 up. You know what I mean? Like, or the +1 to hit is a command ability, so it's a little different. But
sure,
that's I think the biggest abusive one in Fangs and the Skink lists are the mortal wounds. But yeah, they just have everything. Even the Starseer, like. Look at you with your War Chanters, Tyler. You have to roll now a 3 up to get 3d6. I just get it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That was probably the most triggered that I've gotten against Seraphon over the last 3 months. Is that stupid auto 3d6 nonsense? Yeah.
So good.
And then of course just salamanders. I mean, like, I need to explain why a unit that is so devastating at range and then can charge and be equally devastating in melee and carries around, 6 alblative wounds with it, assuming the 2-pack, right, is problematic. Like, they just
need to go. That can be pointed.
That's pure points, right?
Yeah.
What are they right now?
4 attacks, 3s, -2 D3.
The points. How much we?
They're 120. They were 110.
120.
They were 110 and they only went up to 120, which is they could easily be 140, 150.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see when people are spamming them. Like, Smorgan's list shows you right away how undercosted they are. Right, whenever you're picking a non battle line unit like that and just racing it to the moon, where you're just like, how many of these things can I just shove in here? Because there's no downside to it, right? Like, I'm still getting enough. I'm not like horribly off kilter on my wounds to points ratio, right?
And they're 4 up save, 4 up save, and there's easy ways to stack them. There's easy ways to get after saves. Like, it's
yeah, and like, that's not to say there isn't other units in the army that I wish would buff. There are still, like, again, this is a super deep bench. But it is one of those books where there's like 80 million war scrolls in it, so there's always going to be losers. Like, they never hit them all with this, right? I do think it's shocking how the percentage that is playable, but there are still obviously some that are lacking.
I'm just pissed they put up some units that, like Pterodons, like, they were so close to being used, and I can still see a role. Like, they do mortals on the charge. Like, there's so many units like that, but it's just like there's so many other units that you're just going to use instead.
Right.
So flavor, I understand you're going to use them. I have awesome painted ones that I love, and it's like, I want to use them, but salamanders are better, or skinks or chameleons, or things like that. So I was just upset. Why did they increase points on even like source warriors? Like, certain things, like, they didn't need to put up, but that's all books. That happens everywhere. So it's like,
the Saurus is the one that kills me more than anything.
Yeah,
because I truly have a deep love in my heart of Saurus, and yet
me too.
And yet here we are. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little sub-faction action before we get into the lists, just so we can set some groundwork here. I want to focus in on 2 of these. So, because I think these are the 2 that have the most legs, but again, to be clear, I actually think all 4 of their sub-factions, I should say, are playable. That sound right, Ridge? I mean, that's...
Yeah, they're all definitely playable. Kodals is just the one that gets hurt the most, because they used to want to really stack command abilities on your Carnosaurs and your stuff, which you can't do anymore. So that's, they used to be able to get +1 to hit, 6s to hit does 2 hits. You know what I mean? Mortals on hits, like all that, and you just can't do that anymore. So,
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, they're the Quaddles, the Claw. You're afraid of the Claw. Is definitely the weakest of the 4, but the fact that I think even it has game, as was shown, because by the way, that Quaddles Claw list you're talking about did end up going 4-1.
For one,
Yeah, so it's going to be another, like, in that, the numbers we were just looking at with the 4+ wins, it's going to add into that category. Now, the other ones, Shorts is in the chat, and he had said that basically add one more 5-up to that list we had, and 4 more 4-1s.
Oh,
wow.
Weekend.
Wild.
Okay. So, and the rest were all Thunder Lizard. So, to me, the 2 top are Thunder Lizard and Dracothian's Tail, though, again, I think all 4 are playable. People might argue with my 2 picks, but to me, I think these are the 2 that just have the most legs. Thunder Lizard feels such a strong meta pick right now. Like, it's because it's under Coalesced, which Coalesced reduces all damage dealt by 1 to a min 1. It's so powerful, especially in the Sons of Bahamut meta, right, where you've got a bunch of 2 damage idiots. Or the Gatebreaker even being at 3 damage, reducing him to 2 is so crippling to what the damage output of what that thing does. There's a lot of elite units doing, 2 and 3 damage attacks. Taking them down to 1-2 is such a drastic change in what they are capable of. It is nuts.
Pigs.
Yep, pigs.
Yeah.
Taking pigs from 2 back to 1, massive, 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 massive impact, right?
I played this a few times, yeah. And I mean, this might be why I find Seraphon a little more in bounds than maybe they are, is I've had a lot of experience with Thunder Lizard, which feels strong, but mostly fair, because, it's like melee, there's some shooting, but yeah, Iron Jaws or other things takes it down 1 damage, but I've still been able to push through in some of the games against Thunder Lizard, even with Iron Jaws. But yeah, it's more challenging, but yeah.
Agreed. I don't I've always been a Coalesce Thunder Lizard person, as I've said on this show like 100 times, because anything that lets me play big stompy monsters, I'm here for it. But what it does is it, in addition to being part of Coalesce and hence having that -1 damage, it also supercharges the shooting of your Bastiladons or your Engines of the Gods. Usually that it means your Bastiladons, doubling up on what they're capable of. It is a great home for the Skink Chief on Steg. This is usually what I end up playing. Yeah. I mean, Thunder Lizard just does well in the current meta. It puts monsters on the table that, as we mentioned earlier, can power project, right? Yeah. Whether they be Bastiladons or even the Great Bow off the Stegodons. Having the ability to project some kind of ranged power and then still survive in melee or do even decent damage in melee is a potent combination. You combine this with sort of the framework of Sallies or other things like that are around, the sort of key linchpins of the army, and you can really have a pretty scary, scary, scary force on your hands.
Yep, and just battle tactics, getting extra points. Like you're pretty much always going to be getting extra points with everything. It's not difficult because they have so many ways to do it. So
yeah. Run 3 with monsters. Yep. Battle line kill with monsters. Yep. It's just like, if it's possible to get sit on a point, monsters take over. Yep, got that in the bag. Like you're not only deep on what you can select, but you're also good on gaining the extra points. Yep. So much so because of the ranged power projection out of your monsters, you're generally not afraid of giving up the 1 VP a turn for losing a monster, because you're definitely making your money back.
Big time. Yep.
Yeah.
So Stegs are -1 rend, 3 damage on their shots.
Yep, 3 shots, except the Skink Chief actually gets 4 because if he has Prime War Beast, because it adds to his mount attacks, which are part of the crew, which it's crazy. 4 attacks. Well, you need to give them +1 to hit. Well, you don't need to, but clearly 2s is much better than 3s. But, 2s and 2s -1, 3 damage. If you had 4 attacks on him, that's, pretty good.
But I am grateful this book has a lot of -1 rend as opposed to a lot of -2 rend and all the mortals that it does. That's certainly one thing that stood out, is helps keep it in check a little bit, is a lot of -1 rend.
Yeah, if the Thunder Lizards had ways to have more than 1 rend, they would be very, very strong. I honestly think that the Carnosaur, I don't know how the Carnosaur doesn't have 2 rend. It's unbelievable. Maybe one of the biggest, what is that called? Things that they've stolen from the Seraphon. I don't know how to word it out, but how does the jaws of a Carnosaur not have 2 rend is unbelievable.
It's the rend situation in general on the Carnosaur has been one of the things that has bothered me since we saw the very first scroll for the for either of the particular Saurus leaders on Carnosaur, right?
Yeah.
It's just shocking to me that a lizard wielding, like, one of them is wielding a laser gun. Like, let's be super clear here. He's wielding a power fist, effectively, right? Like, they don't flavor it exactly like that anymore, but that's what because obviously the one guy is, what was his name?
The old blood or the
Yeah, the Krokgar, wasn't that his name, right? The old
Croc. Yeah.
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 So, they were using like science fiction tech, like old one tech. It was laser shooting. Like that's what they have, spaceships, folks. Okay. This isn't like this is an army that literally has spaceships. They figured into a recent story in pretty heavily, right? Of Croak from the bridge of his spaceship being like, fire all lasers at that point on the Silver Tower. It was it's a major plot point that he had a Starfleet ready to go. We've made the joke before about Battletoad Gothic as being the next expansion game we want. So, this dude has a laser gun, which generally, I mean, I watch Dune. Laser guns seem to rend pretty well.
Yep, they should.
And the other guy on the bottom is a T-Rex, which I've also seen all the Jurassic Park movies. Those jaws seem pretty sharp and effective. So how this dude has the rend situation he's in is just, it's very frustrating to me. And by the way, that would be exactly the character you would give super high rend to, and it would be fine. Right?
And he's cool. Like, he's one of the coolest models. People just, because he had 5 damage, he was one of those early beasts to come out that did 5 damage. So it was like, oh my God, that's 20 damage. But it's like, they hit on 4. So now it's okay in this edition because you can't get them to 2s. So, I don't know. I've tried to make my Carnosaur work so many times. I call him Dorothy because he just seems to always fail at everything and never kill or do anything I want. So
I think I might have the same model you do. Mine, similar experiences.
Yeah,
but the Skink Chief Stag has just never let me down. Although he's got the same sort of overall rend challenges, so is what.
Yeah, he's great.
It's just you can push his damage across the board up high enough and his number of attacks up high enough that like something's gonna get through and just blow people up.
Exactly.
Anyways, okay, like the power that the Skink Chief on Stegadon brings over the other guy is he brings the skink keyword as opposed to the Saurus keyword, which is such a more powerful keyword to bring along. It's literally that. By being a tiny lizard instead of a big lizard, he's more powerful. See, that's how it works. At any rate, the other one's Dracothian's Tail, which is obviously part of Starborn. So, Dracothian's Tail allows you to keep items off the table. Really good, where one of your other big threats in the world is a shooting alpha. Right, so as long as the Slann can stay alive and or pop back up, which I know you had a couple experiences with that. It's, you want to talk about a really, when your Slann gets alpha struck and you're rolling that 4+ to see if he comes back. Boy, oh boy, is that an impactful dice roll.
It's a mistake right away. It's like, like the feeling, I can't even express the feeling of that when something happens like that, like with Sentinels. It happened to me in my game too. And it was like, I was only within range of 20 of them. I know you can give Speed of Hish. I know you can add 6 inches to the range. I know your Lore Master is going to come down and cast Lambent Light on my Slann. Like, I know all these things can happen. It's such a low chance that all of those things are going to happen. But when they start happening and you fail, with a +2 with a reroll or a +1 with a reroll, whatever, it's like, So yeah, if you don't, you don't want to rely on the 4-up comeback, but it's just another nice little icing on the cake. Like, it saved me huge at Du Bois. So to be able to, What
are you, Rich? What are you unbinding on whenever someone goes first against you? When you have a Slann or when you have Croak?
Just +1. So you can with the asterism, you can, if you have a turn in your start of the hero phase, you can give +1 as well. So then you're on +2.
Right.
Croak's +2 always now. He got a new scroll.
Right.
So the +1, is that coming from? So doesn't the Ash with the Barrel always give you a +1?
Just to cast. So the
Okay.
the Slann, that's the Slann's War Scroll is +1, and then your asterisms for another +1, and then that's pretty much all you're getting for unbinding. And then you can cast Celestial Equilibrium if you have a Slann and Croak, or 2 Slanns, whatever. Then you can +1 to cast and unbind to all other ones. But yeah, as soon as you, but the cheeky thing too, as soon as you have a turn, you can get it to +2 for the rest of the game if you keep doing Sage's Staff.
Right.
So because it's
keep
the
setting the stars.
Yeah, but you can even do it to other models too. Like you could even give +1 to cast to say your Starseer, and then because it's worded in the hero phase, so it's your opponent's hero phase, you can switch it back to the Slan in your opponent's hero phase. So then say, okay, my Slan's getting the +1 to unbind. But either way, it's like, yeah, you can. It's essentially +2 to unbind.
You got that little window of vulnerability or particular vulnerability.
Yeah, off the bat, yeah. But you got to reroll Arcane Might. Pretty much, everyone's taking Arcane Might on the Slan for a reroll, so it's like reroll at +1. Yeah, I don't know. It's helped me a lot, but at the same time, it's Magic. Everything can always fail.
Yep. All right. Well, let's dig into your lists, shall we? Because that's what we're here to. Let's get to those lists. Them hot lists. All right. So we're gonna start with the Thunder Lizard list, and I think this kind of shows a lot of different stuff in play. So take us through this one. This is Thunder Lizard, your strats Beastmaster. Take us through this list. This is all the drops, just a million drops.
Yeah, this is the Nuzlocke. Shouts to Smorgan. No, I like I said, I want to play Thunder Lizards now. There's so many good Thunder Lizard lists with using just the Slan, the Skink Priest, and the Engine. 3 Staggies, 2 Sally, 1 Sally. Like you see, that's like the classic. I think it was Jack Armstrong way back in the day. A couple months ago, he went 5-0 with it. I've seen it actually a few times in tournaments now. People run it because it just works really well.
Right.
Christian Weir ran something very similar. I think he went like 4-1, maybe 5-0. He won best overall. Yeah. Bruce City Brawl, I believe. Yeah, in the States.
And Mike Vaginos, I just played my game 4, like the best game I had from Du Bois. He was running that same list, and I haven't actually played it myself, but I've played iterations of it. Essentially, it's a 1-drop, so that's what is obviously so good about it. So I didn't want to go the path of the 1-drop. I still think it's really good to have salamanders, obviously, for the Ren. So for this list, you always have to ask the question about exactly giants, like those heroes, because they're still going to be around. So I love having the Starseer still. So Control Fate for the -1/+1 save.
Yep.
Just so good. I didn't go with this. I have a few different iterations where with the Skink Chief that you're saying, Vince, on Staggy instead of one of the other Stagadons. But I don't know. The points, everything just didn't work. And I wasn't able to get 6 heroes, so I'm not able to get the 2.
Let's just say his points increase was unjust. He did nothing wrong. And he got whacked with like a big old points increase at the change. So I get it. I get it. That was this is not justice was my first thought when I read his points jump. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, he's so good, like you said, with being able to stack everything. You can still do that with the Engine, so I put the Beastmaster on the Engine. Engine is so good, being close to the Slan, always having a chance on 3d6 to get the summon is massive because it's only, I think it's just under 100 wounds, so that's huge too. Again, the Slan as the general here with the Arcane Might, because just the reroll and +2 is just so good throughout the game. The drops I wasn't too worried about. This was just cooler because I actually used the Thunderquake.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I was just like, that's neat. In this, you can actually, that's from the book. So essentially, you can use an all Unleash Hell or an all out attack, just for free. It's like, So
what do you have to have in that? Looks like you got 2 minimum, 3 minimum.
Yeah, it's Engine. I think 1 or 2 Staggies. And then Salamander unit, I think. And then, so I was just like, that's nice. And being able to get either of those buffs. And then 2 Staggies and 2 Sallies. And then one of the big picks, too, is the 5 Chameleons. So I haven't played as much Thunder Lizards. So the other 2 lists I'm going to talk about are ones that I've played tons of games with and I've won tournaments and everything with. This one is the one I'm slowly starting to build now. So this is what I'm kind of wanting to play. But the camos in Thunder Lizards, like, just having any type of threat, I'm sure you guys know just from playing games. If you ask your opponent if they have any way to teleport and they say no, or they have no way to do anything, it makes you feel so much better. You can just move your models where you want. You don't have to worry about anything. So just having the 5 camos is just so huge in this list. For Savage Spearhead to do some mortal wounds with Comet and the Realm Shaper as well. All those types of things. And then just 5.
friend and Reg at Flying Monkey, literally all 5 games, the first question that he got was, "Do you have any teleports? What teleports in your army? Are you teleporting?"
Yeah.
People just freaking out at Seraphon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a valid question nowadays. It's
Yeah.
like it's not even like what it's not even do you have a teleport? It's like, okay, how does your army teleport? It's
Right,
more-
yeah, exactly. What can you set up in reserve? What can you teleport on me? Yes, exactly. How can you move for free? Go, tell me.
Yeah. So yeah, other than that, it's like that, exactly that. And then the hunters as well, because you can put the staggies in hunters because they lose the behemoth keyword. So, you know, it's I don't know. I did see Caleb was one of his lists had that. So I was like, yeah, that seems cool to run with staggies. Not being able to roar the stagadons, you know, could be big. So yeah, it's a bunch of drops, but it doesn't care if you give me first. That's it. If you're going to be a bunch of drops, you better be able to do something turn 1. So this list can do things turn 1. So it's like if they give me first, I can always run 3 monsters, or if I'm in range already, I can start doing some work, doing some damage. Bastillodon shooting twice is obviously just classic. You get the Skink Priest is there to give him +1 to hit because you can't do all out attack and then also double shoot it. Just I don't know. It's gonna be fun.
What's the Beastmaster mount trait do again?
So it gives you either +1 attack or run and charge.
Run and charge. Okay.
Yeah. Or run and shoot and charge. So you have 2 ways to do that too. So I was even thinking if you want to risk it and you want to do, say, Ferocious Advance first, you could give Beastmaster on your 1 unit and then do the 3 up for run, shoot, and charge from the Skink Priest, and then run the engine because you don't need to worry about running and shooting because it's at the start of the shooting phase. So you could still run the 3 and then shoot with the other 2 if you ran like the Skink Priest on Staggy or something like that. So there, you know what I mean? They're like just having ways to do that is crazy. Like we said, just so many ways to get around stuff.
Yeah, there's so many crisscrossing, overlapping potential buffs, potential ways to play into answers, right?
Yes.
To play into options.
Just need the skink keyword.
Yep. Yeah, one of these keywords is of much higher value than the other in this army. There is no question about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. I like it in Nuzlocke. I think it's a super fun list. This is a fun list to play. I like that it has some limitations at the same time. Like you mentioned, it's 85 wounds. It does what it does, right? Yes, you've got the potential backup summon with the engine, but you're not going to bank on that, right? Yeah. And but it's great. It's a lot of fun. I dig this list, and I like the use of the Thunderquake Slayers. That's fun.
Yeah, it was cool to use that. The only thing I thought of too, in chatting with other friends about Seraphon, Basil, my one buddy, he's a big Seraphon guy too, so we always chat, is like Iron Jaws now. So it's like, that's what he asked right away. He's like, what about Maw Crushers and Pigs? You know what I mean? Like getting alpha'd. Mm-hmm. And it's like, with the Realm Shaper and the 5 guard in Hunters, you might be able to screen somewhat like what you need to do, and then put your other single staggy that is in Hunters. He could possibly be a little screen on the side. And then if you get alpha, there's always a chance to double back. Curse on the engine is actually much. We didn't chat about this yet, but all of the terrain in Seraphon now in Coalesced is +1 to your priest for mystical, and everything has a 6-up ward. So like my game 4, when I was playing against that Seraphon list, he was making tons of 6-up wards. Like it's just so nice having that, like just as an extra add-on too.
Yep.
Running hammers and wow. Yeah, it actually gets Seraphon with Croak and just mortal wounding me like crazy. Probably like 16 wounds extra from the 6-up during that game. Yeah, it really added up.
So nice.
It makes a difference. Yeah, I agree. That's sort of one of those really sneaky things that they put in there that was like, oh hey, everybody's like, okay, whatever, sure, it gets those keywords. It's like, no, really think about what that's doing. Right? Yeah. Chalupa, the mount trait for an Engine of the Gods, is from the White Dwarf article for Seraphon.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. That's where the Thunderquake Slayers battalion comes from also, so check that out.
Yeah, and just the amulet on him is like just nuts. 14 wounds with the amulet, -1 damage. Like, get out of here.
Right.
It's
tough as a coffin nail, that guy. Yes.
Yeah, and I really wanted to. I still think it's really good and cool to run if you can get 6 heroes, because then you can get the Cloak of Feathers on your Stink Chief on Staggy, as I'm sure Vince you've used.
Oh my god, so many times. Yes, I love the Cloak of Feathers on him because he's just like, I'm trying to picture how it works. But yes, having a flying
14-inch move.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, it's real good. It's real good, turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that cloak on him. I assume he just
So
picks up
we're
the Stegodon with his little toes and carries it around.
Yeah.
so Ridge, what do you think this is gonna have a hard time with in terms of the cream of the crop? You know, IJ, Suns, you
I
know,
don't know.
Lumineth,
Yeah, like
etc.
Lumineth is always just Lumineth, so it's low
Yeah.
bravery, so it's always going to be troublesome with that. The -1 damage, honestly, is really good. Iron Jaws, like you said, can still usually push through. The Destroyer Maw Crusher with Fasten, if you're not running the amulet on him,
Yeah.
that's still 5 damage to
Yeah.
that's still killing stuff.
Going from 2 damage to 1 damage on a unit like Pigs, you're like, wow, that's a big impact I just had on the game. Going
Yeah.
from 6 damage to 5 damage on the Destroyer Maw Crusher, you're like, oh, I'm still dead.
Yeah, far dead. So yeah, maybe them. I don't know. Other than that, yeah.
I mean, so I was curious where you would rate this just in terms of like competitiveness. Like looking at this, it seems again pretty fair again, within the context of if I'm taking this to a tournament, am I expecting to go 5-0 with this? Not really.
No,
Like I think I'm gonna have a lot of tough games. I don't have like we just talked about. We don't have a lot of screens here. I'm just seeing a number of holes in this. I mean, it can do some things,
Yep.
but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really strike me as a really powerful list.
Yeah, I would still definitely think you could go 4-1 with this. 3-2, 4-1 if with matchups, and it's huge matchup dependent with Coalesced in general.
Right.
And I would never, like I said, I haven't played a ton of games with them. But now that I've played against like some of the top lists that I've seen, I was like, wow. It was honestly very surprising when I played my game 4 and some of the scenarios that were happening. I also had Salamanders, so it was like all my D3s were -1. So
Right.
that hurts a lot. I was rolling a lot of 3s actually, so it was like go down to 2. But like I said, it's I think still really good. One thing you could change would give it the 1 drop and then make it 4 drop. So you could do the Command Entourage and Battle Regiment for 4 drop, which I don't know. Some of the other big lists are going to be 1 or 2 drops. So 4 is still competitive for sure because a lot of other lists will be 4 drop. But yeah, you're right. There are going to be some lists, even Doc, I'm thinking now too. Like there's going to be some lists that for sure are going to be pretty good against it. But yeah, like I was saying, it's more I want to try to run something that is still fun, but still very competitive. And I think after I get a bunch of reps in, I can probably hopefully do well with it. We'll see. It's going to change too.
Being under Nuzlocke, as is the concept here, right? Like that's kind of the part of what you're going to get, Tyler, right? Is it's not as tuned as it could be, which I know you and I are both a fan of, right? Like it's more interesting to have this varied set of units. You have a lot of different plays. You aren't just like wham jam slamming the button, right? You've got to you do have to think your way through some stuff. So I appreciate that.
So. Yeah.
Going very high on the variety pack. I think you got 9 different war scrolls here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different war scrolls. That's amazing. Like it tends to be like you get up to 7, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, with variety pack. So that's cool, man.
All right, let's move on. Next list. This is your Du Bois list, right? Where you took best general just this last weekend. This is Seraphon Dracothian's Tale.
Yep.
As we mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit about what Dracothian's Tale is capable of. But take us through this list. By the way, I do want to shout out, you already mentioned her, but I want to draw everyone's attention again to Duralia Van Denst. Whoa, Duralia. Oh, just like, I don't know if anybody else has watched Duralius and Friends, but at any rate, or Associates, sorry. But it's like really, really great YouTube web comic, so check it out sometime if you like that sort of thing. But anyways, all I can think of, because her name is so close to the main character, which is Duralius, she's amazing in this list. There are so many wizards in the meta right now that are of such high value, and the fact that she can just be like, click, click, boom, bye, see you later, boys, have a good night, is so powerful. But anyways, take us through this. I loved this pick. I thought that's a hot pick. Rich.
Yeah, and I love the allies. I get teased often about using so many of like the different weird allies to bring in, but she's just so good. Like you said, I could just start with her. Like I said, I kill the Hurricane and I kill some of these huge pieces. Cathalar. Game 5 was against Double Chicken, so right away I think he used a 5 and a 4 of his Destiny dice to make or was it 5 and a 6? I can't remember, to make saves on it. So just chewing up 2 big Destiny dice, because that's going to be 4 damage to him.
Right.
Yeah, so she's amazing. And then it's your classic Starborn loadout. So Slan with your so in Dracothian, instead of having Arcane Might, they have a different command trait that gives same thing, a reroll, but it also gives you an extra spell. So the Slan can have 2 spells. So Stellar Tempest is just so good. It's a horde killing spell. 24-inch. I don't know why they thought the Slan needed to have a 24-inch horde killing spell with the Astrolith Bear. So it's going to be 30-inch. So, you know,
5 up mortals.
5 up mortals, yeah. So, you know, sentinels, anything, wardens, like I fought like 30 crossbows. Like there are still some 20, 30 packs of things. So good. And then Celestial Equilibrium is in there just so I can give +1 to cast to other casters. So I'll often actually give the Asterism to the Starseer if I'm within some to -1 save. So I'll give the Asterism to the Starseer. I'll cast Celestial Equilibrium with the Slan. So that Starseer is then +3 because of the Astrolith Bear as well. So again, a little utility thing you can do. So Equilibrium is a great spell. The Starseer, 4 up CP, 3d6 charge, so many things. The Skink Priest, I don't know if everyone knows, he's like the greatest model in the book.
Yep.
He has the +1 to hit until next hero phase, which is unbelievable on salamanders, on anything, because it helps with Unleash Hell. It helps the units like salamanders that get efficiency from shooting and combat.
Right.
And then 3 up +1 save, run, shoot, and charge, which is like how this little 80-point hero gives that many things is just ridiculous. Yeah, and then what's the 5th hero is the Astrolith Bear himself. So he adds 6-inch range to your spells. He gives a 6-up ward, which you don't have. So very good for your heroes. And then +1 to cast. So amazing. And then what is it? So it's 10 skinks, 5 guard.
Yep.
Which great for screening with your skinks. I often put 10 of the skinks up in the sky with my 6 sallies or 4 sallies. I would often keep 2 on the board so I could give them that +1 to hit command trait. Or just if I was a little bit scared of possibly my Slan dying, then at least I have 2 salamanders on the board. And then, the 3x2 sallies, that's the staple of the army. So because this is a 2-drop, you're often able to give turn 1 away. You can screen out well enough that you can give away first. And then if you win the double, then there's not many armies that can handle 6 salamanders fully shooting into them, and then next turn fully shooting into them again, and then charging them.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, your earlier comment there, Tyler, about the sort of proliferation of Neg 1 Rend in this book doesn't hold true when you're weighted heavily by an anchor of sallies, right? Who are Neg 2 shooting and Neg 2 in melee, and tripping mortal wounds, right? So it's like it's the double whammy of armor crunchers. So yeah. And the Seer as well. I didn't say, but the Starseer has his 2 spells are like maybe the best in like the game. So his one he's chosen is Hand of Glory, which is the Seraphon Skink spell, which is a reroll once to hit until next hero phase. So just one of the greatest, especially when you're hitting on 3s or 2s. Like it's just such a good spell. And on the Bastiladon as well, like just on anything with the Skink keyword, it's so good. And then his War Scroll spell is +1, -1 save. So he's the conduit for Hand of Glory if I'm outside of 24 turn 1 to give -1 save, or I just want to give something else reroll once to hit, which in this case is the last thing in the list, which is the Bastiladon, which did most of a lot of battle tactic extra points and ended up being amazing in my game 5 because Chaos Demons, he does 3 damage. So just so good. I killed. So in my game 5, I gave away first, and like I just said is what happened. So I gave away first to Caleb. He went first, did what he can, and dropped all my stuff down outside to be able to shoot what I could, all the screens and whatnot, and then shoot all the long range at the chickens. And then I left myself just outside of 18 of the chickens, so that if he won turn, he's not able to mortal wound anything because I'm all outside of 18. He can do his portal with the gift change, blah blah. So then I ended up winning turn 2 prow. So then all of those salamanders went in. I exploded the Lord of Change, the Kairos, and the Change Caster, and it was GG. Yep.
Right, so on salamanders, I'm sure other folks have mentioned this. My friend Dan, like I said, plays Seraphon all the time. This was something that he had mentioned to me a while back. Keep them at the current point cost. Simply make them 9-inch range. Is that toning them down too much? Or is that about right? So they got what, a 12-inch range right now, which allows the
They have a
teleport and
12-inch
shooting.
range right now. I mean, look,
Yeah.
here's my issue with that fix.
Um,
Okay, what's obviously being attempted to be fixed there is the drop and pop, right? Like
right.
that's what they're. It's the problem is that feels terrible. Okay,
Yep.
it feels like
The
now
nine.
suddenly you can't use your unit. When they did that to the pistols of the KO boys, you were just like, oh, okay, so these guys suck now with a core mechanic of the army. Like
Mm,
nerfing you out of using one of your main mechanics
mm.
isn't the right way to fix things.
We also have the
Right? Like,
example of that Daughters of Cain warband, the Cainite Shadowstalkers, where the
yeah, sure.
range was like 6 inches, and I had heard through the grapevine that it didn't start at 6 inches.
Right. And I
Wow.
just I hate that as a fix,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, oh hey, we're gonna fix your army by giving you a total non-bow.
Mm,
Like non-bows don't feel good. Better solution, either fix the scroll so
Yeah.
that they are not doing overwhelming damage in both shooting and melee, right? Like
mm,
just weaken them in one of those two places. Because again, units in general, unless they are exorbitantly expensive, shouldn't be good in both shooting and melee. I don't think I'm like, I don't think this is some kind of secret magic here, right? This is pretty
yeah.
obvious. You know,
Yeah.
if Sentinels at their same points cost in melee also made like 3 attacks at threes, neg 2/2, I'd be like, whoa, what?
Mhm.
What is going on here, right? Like it would be a huge problem. The only saving grace, if there's any, to Sentinels is that if you do get into them, they just die in bucket loads, right? Because
Mm.
they're just dorks on a 5-up save who like they like
Yeah.
hit you with boot daggers, you know?
But
Yeah.
In Starborn, to be fair, Vince, they only have 3 attacks instead of 4 in combat.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
It's still 3 attacks with D3 mortals on 6s, blah blah, all the same stuff.
Mm,
But yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so like either the answer is like let it work, let them
Points.
drop and shoot. It's a cool thing,
mm,
right?
Yeah.
Just either wheel some of that back in, like that is to say, either like the damage needs to come down or the rend needs to come down or something, right? Like I don't care. Like I'm not going to propose the exact solution. Make the numbers worse somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you only had, say, 4 instead of 6 salamanders, yeah, that's going to be a lot less output. So I think it can just be pointed out. But
Right. Either
yeah,
change the scroll or make them more points. That's it.
yeah,
Because if you're
mm,
going to be good in shooting and melee, then you should have points cost to reflect that. Like, I'm cool with it if you're paying accordingly for it. Like, there is a
mm,
reasonable points cost where salamanders aren't broken. They're not, they're not, like, they are just some wounds on a 4-up save, right? Like,
yeah,
let's be fair here.
mm,
Okay. They're just at the moment hyper efficient wounds on a 4-up save, especially if you can move, shoot,
and-
charge, kill. You're just like they're like the Langoliers in that crappy TV movie from the '90s, right? They
yeah.
just chewing up. So like there is a points cost where they become reasonable, playable, but not spammy,
yeah.
and just sort of odd.
Sure.
Like there's
Still
some
very
ways.
strong. Still very strong, like you said. Just a unit that can shoot and then be that good in combat. I guess you could change a few things, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
It's
like I
tough.
said, I'm
Mm,
fine with either. By the way,
Yeah,
like if the answer is we want to hold them at their current points cost because we feel like that's a valid place for them to be,
yeah. Give him
you
one
know,
attack in
then sure,
combat.
yeah, exactly, yeah, then just cool, knock down their combat attacks, right? Like just
Hmm.
take that out of the equation. So they're a shooting unit that isn't as good at fighting. Okay, fine, great, A+. Like I'm back on board. You know what I mean? Like there are lots of ways to fix things. Just do any
Hmm.
of them.
Yeah.
mm.
It's just do any of them.
Mm.
Weren't they 80 points when the book came out?
They were.
That sounds right. Yeah. It
They
was
were,
absurd.
and then no one ever could buy a salamander for 7, 8 months.
Yeah. So, Rich, what have you found the most challenging term? So
with
you
this.
mentioned Lumineth, yeah, with this list.
Yeah, so one drop Lumineth on some battle plans if I can deploy, far enough away. Um, yeah, Jordan beat me in an RTT with his Techless Lumineth build against pretty much this list. I changed one little thing, but so yeah, I think that's one of them. Something that can kill the Slan. So because you can't really hide him in certain, depending on terrain, what you can get, like 12 long strikes now, or like shooting
Yeah.
twice and blah blah, and some of the long range stuff. KO sometimes could be, but now I can just garrison him with the 5 guard, and at -1 to hit, I just don't think they can. They all hit on 3s and maybe 2 damage, but I don't know. Yeah, there's a couple things, but
So let's say somebody has, we'll call it an average amount. Let's say 10, 15 judicators, as opposed to like even not 6 long strikes, but something slightly below or a little below 6 long strikes. What's the target priority list?
So depends if it's 1 drop, or if it's 1 drop, then you're hoping you win the roll off so that he has to deploy first. If he gives you first, it's 2 drops, so you can deploy your other drop, which doesn't have the Slan, and then he would put his list down, and then you can measure from the adjudicators. So that's always a big problem, is knowing kind of where things are going to be. If you can't tell where like certain units like that are going to be, then you're probably going to get to pick who goes first. So that's always.
I mean, let's say I've got. What would be a different example?
Tyler's
I'm
trying
trying
to
to
ask you what he should shoot at.
Should I shoot it? Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to
How
ask
much until you should start shooting other things, or how?
Yeah, if you're an army with an average, you haven't leaned heavily into shooting.
You're not Lumineth. You're not the shooting alpha. Where are you putting your precious shooting resources to damage this list?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. The Bastiladon's on a 1-up save. He's going to be on the floor, and then there's going to be a couple tens of skinks. Maybe the other heroes. That's the one beauty of having the salamanders in the sky, is that if you can't kill the Slan, then your hammers, or the things that you want to kill, are on the table. So it's.
So I would guess like it's as usual. It's the Skink Priest. The Skink Star Seer is on a 6 wounds.
He's a 5 wounds, but So I would probably shoot the Skink Priest is probably the first target. The Seer actually is quite a bit of utility as well. The Ashworth Bear too for summoning, because he gives D3 summoning as well.
That's one of the lessons I've learned against. Is that I need to prioritize. In general, folks should prioritize Ashworth Bear. I would get it's on a 3-up base or 4-up base.
4-up. But all these things are going to be in the Realm Shaper usually as well, which is it's dicey because everything's garrison and everything will have Lookout Sir from the Source Guard, so everything is -2 to hit. So if you don't have a way to get +2 to hit, it's tough.
Great list, because you've got a lot of these. Like, you have output from all over the place. 3x2 Sallies. You've got Doralia in a lot of matchups. She's going to be doing work. You've got the Mortal Wounds from the spells. That's going to be doing and then you're summoning more models. You've got pretty good durability. And the Bastiladon, I hope it's not double tapping.
It's so good. No, you can't. It's only in Thunder Lizards. Yeah.
Okay, Thunder Lizards the double tap. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's a great list. A lot of. I really always love lists that have they're not leaning too heavily into one piece. You've got good pieces all over the place, but you're not leaning heavily. You don't have this Death Star unit that Be'lakor can tie up or whatever.
Yeah,
because this is very anti-Be'lakor.
Because it's 3 units of fire-breathing madness.
Very cool list.
Yeah, it's scary to be sure. All right, let's talk the last list. So this is your Red Harvest GT list. Again, you went Best General. But this was a Fangs of Sotek list. We haven't talked about Fangs too much, but this is obviously Fangs had a lot of play in the before times. So take us through this guy and how you think it's where it's playing differently.
Yeah, and this one's still my jam. Like I said, this is the one that I like playing, the one that I've played the most, and I still think has a lot of legs, and it doesn't get nearly as much love because once the skink blocks went down to 30, people just for some reason thought that they weren't as good as they were, which and it helps with the save stacking. So yes, the skinks aren't as much output because all of those no rend attacks are going to be saved on 2-ups. So you're relying on the mortals. So against Archeon and Nagash on a 1-up rerolling 1s, then yes, you're not going to do any damage because the 4-up mortals as well. But that's why you have the other 2 units of Sallies, and in this list has Gotrek. So it's I like this list a lot better because it has an answer for everything. It has the multitude of shots from the 30 skinks. It has 2x2 sallies to still do insane damage, and then it has Gotrek as well, to be able to get into things and kill stuff.
This list seems scarier to me on paper, at least.
Yeah, and it's a huge deterrent. Just having Gotrek, people don't want to come into you, like
sure.
Iron Jaws and things like that. Like that's the last thing a Maw Crusher wants to go into.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Only being able to take 1 damage and having a 3-up ward save.
Yeah,
So
the 16-inch ginger zone right in the middle of the board.
yeah, exactly. And
4-inch move, 12-inch charge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the reason I bring Cogs as well. So because it's an 8-inch rerollable, so often the time I'm staying outside of that 9, and then it's going to be an 8-inch rerollable charge. So that's one of the other really nice pieces of this list. And then as well, because Gottrek's so slow, and big maps with like what's the one with the 6 points? That one, like maps like that. You have mobility in the teleport and the running around to be able to deal with Gotrek not getting into things. So even if you're putting him out to be a bubble of avoidance, you're going with your 30 skinks and your salamanders and stuff on another place. So it's huge to get the run, shoot, and charge in this list on the sallies, because then you can at least run them. So in Fang's turn 1, they get +3 move as well, which is also really good, because then your sallies are going to be going 11 inches plus run, so 17 inches. You do the constellation for +1, so they're going to be going 18 inches plus shoot and charge. So, and then you teleport your 30 skinks as well. So that's one thing getting in, and then Gotrek is So there's so many ways to kind of play this one. It's completely different than the Draco, because the Draco you're just dropping down in murking stuff, but it's also a 2-drop because everything can just go into double battle regiment. So
sure.
Yeah, it's so good, and there's so many little nuances with this list that I love. The only thing is it takes a little bit longer to play, so that's one thing. Why the reasons I took the other list to Du Bois, because I didn't want to move around all the skinks. I didn't want to. Parting shot actually takes a lot of time because you're doing it in your opponent's phase. You can parting shot with the 30 skinks and unleash hell with salamanders, and if you get charged, so it's a lot of dice in your opponent's turn, but parting shot is just so good. You don't get the -1 to hit, so they're still hitting on 4s. You can deny battle tactics with it. I have so many times people charge your battle line unit, even 10 skinks. You shoot them 4 up, you run away. There goes broken ranks.
I think that was one of the battle reports you guys did where that came up. And I think you failed it, but if you'd gotten it, it would have been huge.
Yeah,
the parting, but really strong. A lot of threats.
Yeah, and then the loadout, like I said, is very similar. This one, actually, I went for I was in between the Star Seer or the Ashwolf Bear, because they're both about the same price. And the Star Seer just gives so much utility, but the extra D3 summoning, like I needed to have the 3D3 summoning per turn. And the Seer didn't give me that. He gave me the +1/-1 to save, but I already had my anti-giant, anti-hero thing. Like I said, I really like that -1 to save spell for giants and heroes like that. But Gotrek is a big enough deterrent towards giants and stuff, right? So,
sure.
Nice. I like it.
So, have you ever tried the Croak Crawl?
Is that Croak with the Slan and a bunch of guard?
Basically, or just Croak and 15 guard, just marching up the board.
Yeah,
hanging out in the center. Yeah, projecting.
I've played 10 and he still didn't die, and he just didn't get targeted. So it was a lot of points into doing that. And now that he's only 16-inch max for the Celestial Deliverances, I get it, you throw him up in the board and he can do mortals to a lot of things, but I feel like there's just so many ways around that now. Now that he can't Balewind hop off 6, recast it, move, you know what I mean, get effectively 30 something inches by Balewind hopping around. It's just not as viable. I know it's still a really good list and does a lot of mortals, and you can still bring in salamanders or whatever else you want to do to bring mortals, and it can be really strong still. It's just you don't have, if you notice, my lists have at least 3 or 4 hammers in all of them, because it's damage. It's what wins you games with these guys is just damage. So
it's a little more Death Star and kind of power in one place. I thought it might be more viable in 3.0. We talked a lot about power per square inch. We've got smaller boards. We've got fewer objectives on the table. All is equal. All of that. And so if you've got Croak Salon or whatever, marching up with 10-15 guard,
Yep.
hanging out in the middle of the board, sort of dominating that middle part, and then 16-inch projection from there. I mean, that's
Still good.
really, yeah, really good bubble, yeah, where you can tap. Like I played it last week, and yeah, it was 15 of them and Croak, and at the end of the game, I like had the thought, well, maybe I should have, as usual, you think target everything else,
Yeah.
let that do what it's going to do, but really that I looking back on it, I thought I should have targeted the guard to get to Croak as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because that was the piece of the list against my hammers list. Wasn't a fully decked out hammers list, but still pretty good. That was doing by far the most work, and it was a very close game at the end. But it was all those mortals from
Yeah.
Croak, and yeah, that lost me that game ultimately.
If you're scared of the mortals, for sure. Yeah, like if you're a list that has Vindictors or Annihilators or anything with like a good save or anything like that, then
Yeah.
he's going to do work against you for sure. And I found too with Croak, now that you can't do the Balewind Hop and that type of stuff, good players like people will just stay at 16.1 away from Croak or 16.1 away from things, so they know they're not going to get the mortals in the hero phase because he can't hero phase move in any way. But yeah, and it's funny you say that because actually we've had a couple comments, and someone I think messaged me on Twitter to ask if I played if I played the Croak and Slan in the Saurus Guard, and I was like, yeah, I can't. I'm planning to at some point. They're like, yeah, it'd be sweet if you could play on the channel. So it's one of those things I was like, yeah, I think eventually I will. And it, there's definitely some viability to it. But yeah, I just haven't really had the chance to yet. But yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's move into some final questions, some open discussion. Okay, because I'm just always being mindful of the time. All right, so discussion. Hammers. We've mentioned salamanders. We've mentioned some stegodon options, bastillodons, right? Will Saurus ever be good?
They're just worse skinks. It's so unfortunate. Like even 30.
I have a belief that based on this book, there's not really a feasible points you could put the Saurus at that would make them the viable choice. Like, I mean, obviously within reason, right? Like, make them 10 points for the unit. Like, okay, yeah, we get it. Haha.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because of the keyword bingo, the power that Skink brings versus the power that Saurus brings, it's almost basically impossible in this book to point Saurus somewhere where they could ever be an actually competitive choice because of how they designed the core foundation of the book. What do you think about that belief?
I think I honestly, and I've went up and down with lists that have 30 Saurus because I really think that they're a good anvil. I still think that they can be good. There's so many ways to get +1 to save. Skink keyword, yes, is better, but you still have, for example, the Starseer. He gives +1, -1, so you could give the +1 save to them. They're all 4-up save, so they're 32 mil. Like, you're not going to be doing too much damage. The Star Priest still gives them 6s to wound to an additional mortal. There's a bat rep where I used them against Feck actually, and I got the 30 into one of the Terrorgeists, and I took it down because we were just joking around. I was like, yeah, this is really good, but it's not as good as Skinks. It's like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing essentially. It's just a little bit worse, but it's because of the buffs that you still can do. So yeah, I couldn't get the +1 to hit buffs, so I would do all out attack essentially. But yeah, I think they can be good because in Coalesce you're -1 damage. They have a 4-up save base. You can give them Mystic Shield and Control Fate. So you can give them 4-up +2 save. So I think there could be a place for sure, maybe in Coatls Claw or in Thunder Lizards, but in Starborn, I don't think there's ever a reason. But yeah, in summary, it's just, yeah, they're just more expensive skinks with less keywords, like you said.
I think we've already answered this question, but we got into it quite a bit more than I just wanted to make sure we touched it. But skinks still good, and I agree with your take, by the way. Like, there's still a home for a unit of 30 skinks. I think that in the right list, that can still absolutely be a viable unit, and you've, I think, articulated that pretty well. The nature of sometimes you just need weight of dice, right? There's a big value to that. They still absorb buffs really, really, really well, really, really, really well.
Yeah.
And so and they're still relatively reasonably costed too.
Yeah, they're still cheap.
Right. So Yeah, I mean, not as cheap as they were, but yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Comparatively.
Yeah,
Uh,
people were freaking when they were 60 points, so they went up 15. So I was like, okay, wow, they went up. What is that? 25%. So I
right.
was like, that was like the biggest percentage jump of everything. And it's like they were 60 points. Like that's crazy. Like now they're
Yeah.
75, and I still think 225 for 30 of them is just still so good. But yeah, just having the one unit of them, yeah, just so good. What was I going to say? Yeah, the ability to buff them. And here's what I was going to say. So in AoS 2, when I was playing Fangs, so many people were playing the 40 blocks, 40 block, 40 block, 40 block, or 40 block, 40 block, 3 Sallies, or
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Sure.
I finally got to 40 block, 20 chameleon skinks, and 3 salamanders was my final one, because you could teleport the skinks, run and charge the Sallies, bring down the camos. So you could do all 3 of your characters into an area, and it was nuts. So I still think it was viable to run the 2 or 3 40s, because you could give them a bunch of pluses to save, and they could actually use them. But the thing that I did differently was I always played with Moonstone clubs and Bolt Spitters. So this is the one that's not defensive. They're a 6-up save instead of a 5-up save.
Right.
So you couldn't get them to a 4-up, to a 3-up, to a 2-up save, like with all of the craziness. But instead of 5s and 5s, they're 4s and 4s in combat.
Right.
So in shooting, you give them the +1 to hit and cast Hand of Glory on them. So they're 4s rerolling 1s to hit, 5s to wound, with 6s doing additional mortals. So that's already very, very good with 60 shots. But then when you charge them in, you can usually get tons of them in because it's 25 mil base. You're usually doing +1 to charge, 3d6 charge, whatever else you want. And it's then 4s and 4s. So it goes just to 3s rerolling 1s to hit, 4s to wound, with 6s doing additional mortals, which is insane amount of damage, insane amount of saves they need to make. And then, whatever, 17, 20 mortals or whatever it is, because 3s rerolling 1s to hit puts through so many more of your wound rolls.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the one thing I noticed when people, because everyone played them Moonstone, or sorry, not Moonstone. Everyone played them
with
both
the daggers and the shields.
Yeah, which was like, in my opinion, I get if you want to have one of each if you're running multiple, but when you're running one, I was like, no, I'm going damage, and also with parting shot, like I'm hoping I roll that 4-up if something does go south. I always have that chance to roll the 4-up and not, and run away.
Yep.
So skinks, yeah, still love them.
Nice. All right. What units simply aren't worth it? Like in the current book, what could you see yourself never putting in a list?
Oh, I want to say like Ripperdactyls, but I feel like they could still maybe do something.
We got Smorgan over here in the chat, by the way, saying that Pterodons, Rippers, and Kroiger, yes, I know I pronounced them like that. I'm going to keep doing it. Kroiger are all good.
Smorgan, I was talking to Smorgan before this actually, and he told me that the Croxagore list, like 3x6 Croxagore, and I was just like, what? I want to see this. Like, I haven't really heard that, but I could see Croxagore still being all right. But I don't know. There's almost every unit can still kind of work because of the keywords, and Knights have a ton of attacks, so they're still amazing with the Star Priest buff. The Dreadsaurians still amazing. Shout out to Emma at the Du Bois tournament. She was running the Dreadsaurian. It was just so cool to see.
4-1?
Yeah, she went 4-1. Yeah, she only lost to Carl with Carl's double Maw Crusher. I know it was the battle line mission as well, so I know the pigs were counting. It was whatever. It was a good list still.
Numbers, is that what it was?
Yeah, so Carl, it was hilarious because Carl had to because she won, she made Carl. She said that Carl had to make a Twitter account, so he has a Twitter account now. Follow him, Carl the Barl or Barl the Carl. I can't remember. And then he had to publicly tweet for his first tweet that the Dreadsaurian is still a competitive list.
That's great.
Nice.
But to get back, I think honestly almost everything can be better than some Beast of Chaos or some like of other books units.
It's like the bench is so deep that literally you could have it in there because of what you could mix it with, right? It's like you've got this ingredient. It might not be up to snuff, but the rest of what you're putting in the soup is so delicious. It's like, it's fine. These mushrooms aren't the best mushrooms. They're like average quality mushrooms. But everything
Yeah.
else I've got in this soup is so delicious, so fresh. No one's going to notice. It's cool. The mushrooms will still do their job.
Exactly that. Don't think you could have done a better job with that analogy.
Ridge, were you around when Dan? I can't remember his last name. Was running
Pterodan?
the Pterodan list?
There,
Yeah.
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 Can we still Pterodan it up? Is that no longer a thing?
Because of the coherency, 6 of them is tough. They do shoot. So even 6 or 9, like they do shoot. Actually, I think so. Yeah, still can be. I think so, because they still shoot a bunch of bullet shots. You can still give them +1 to hit, reroll 1s to hit. You can give them six to wound, do additional mortal. You can still give them all those same awesome buffs. You can run them with the Pterodon Chief to give the mortals on 2-ups for a CP. Not clearly as good, nearly as good as it used to be. Because is he the priority role? Is that Dan from Priority Role?
Yeah, priority role. Yeah,
I love his. So that's one of the other podcasts actually I used to listen to. I don't know if I think
he's on break.
Okay, that's why I was like, I used to love listening to, like, I heard Owen and some of the other guys on there. But yeah, I used to run Pterodons in 2. They were amazing just because the coherency. 6 or 9 of them with that 2-up mortal bomb were really tasty. But yeah, I don't know. Everything kind of can have a place, I think, but maybe not amazing.
In the next book, this isn't on my discussion list, but you triggered the thought. Like, Seraphon will get a new book at some point, right? Everybody will get a new book at some point. It's the inevitability of time. It continues advancing. In the next book, do you want to see the old school units of a mixed unit of Kroiger and Skinks come back, like back in Fantasy Battles days, where you would have little Skinkerdoos and then your Kroiger swinging over the top? Do you want to see that? I mean, we've got mixed units still in the book, right? We got Sally's. They bring little skink friends along. Why can't the Kroiger bring skink friends along?
I love it. Yeah, I love it, and I love them synergizing with skinks as well. They're cool as well. Like, obviously, a lot of models I just want to have a new sculpt, as many people do. But Lost Kingdom, there's a lot of good third-party places that make some really cool models. But yeah, they're one of them. But like you said earlier, I think the biggest one is I just want Saurus Warriors to be good again. Like, I have I think 80. I think I have over 80 Saurus Warriors, like 40 or 50 of them painted to a pretty good standard. And then the other 40 just, I'm using them now as my engine summons, essentially.
Sure.
But that's the one unit, if you ask me, what, could be good. Just an all Saurus. The old Sunclaw battalion we used to be able to run that gave him rend and whatever. I love the Sunblood. Like, I don't understand why they needed to do that mini nerf to him. He was already never used. Even now, it's like he works with the Saurus keyword, so you're not ever going to see him. But I like the idea of running. The Sunblood was always such a cool model. I used to, before when it was they lessened rend by 1. So the Sunblood lessened rend by 2. He was like one of the OG ones to do that. And then 6s to hit did D3 hits, 6s to wound did D3 mortals. His rules were just super cool. And then he had Scent of Weakness, which was, what was it? Like, I think it was reroll hits to a unit. And then they changed it to +1 to wound, I believe. Right. And then now it got nerfed to something else. But he was one of my favorite models. So I would love to, I have the other one, but before I got into conversions and stuff. So I would absolutely love for that to happen and then convert up like a super cool Sunblood.
Shout out to Brian S. in the chat, by the way, who said, I have 140 Saurus. That's a number.
You got me beat, Brian.
Yeah, because I think I have 50. I have 50 painted because I wanted to be able, when I built it, I wanted to be able to do, like, when I put the army together, I was like, I want to be able to do a full battle line spread of Saurus if I should feel like it, right? So it was like 30, 10, 10. Okay, cool. That covers that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously the Stegodons were the real focus, but there we are. I got all my Stegodons, by the way, are like all my Seraphon are old school, like 5th edition Lizardmen type of models. So I have the old the old Saurus. Yeah, the Stegodons are metal. Yeah, they're pewter.
Oh, really?
I could kill a man with my Stegodons. Like, if you piss me off in the game, I'll just throw a Stegodon at you. You're dead. You're instantly dead. That thing is a deadly weapon. Because it is like 5 pounds of sharp, pointy horn coming off pewter. Yes.
I have one of the pewter ones, and that's where, with this new list, I'm thinking about, well, I want to get a new one just because it doesn't match my scheme at all, and it's just an old pewter model. It makes more sense if you're running all of them like that.
Yeah, but None of mine stand out, right? Because they're all the same size. Because
Yeah.
I have two regulars and then the chief, and so since they're all metal, the only new plasticky thing I got is I do still own the old dude on Carnosaur, but he's too comically small. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've seen the old metal. He's
I
like,
have I have one too. So how I got into the army actually is one of my friend's brothers got rid of all of his lizard men. So I was a
sure,
Skaven player. Like I played all Skaven in fantasy as well. So
sure.
I got just a
So
ton
you
of
went to our
Saurus.
dreaded enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, oh, dinosaurs, oh, they're cool. And then next thing you know, so I still have, well, I have not nearly as much as you, but I have like, 5,000 or 6,000 points of Skaven. But Seraphon is getting up there now. I've been buying,
Sure.
Over the years. I probably have the same now, about 5,000 or 6,000 of Seraphon too.
When you get a deep passion in an army, it just builds. You can't. It just happens. It's the
Yeah.
inevitability of time. Yeah, the old Carnosaur, by the way, the old metal Carnosaur. For those who don't know, he's probably about as tall as Bastion is now. Like he was on his Carnosaur, he would look like he's riding like a raptor in
Yeah.
in sort of modern parlance. But anyways, yeah, fun stuff. But I love the old Saurus so much more than the new Saurus because the new Saurus looked too weedy and skinny and weak to me, where the old Saurus were like these little muscly tanks. But anyways.
Yeah. And the knights, the knights are just the worst. I want to play coatls and get the Drake spawns because they're just so cool. I love the cold ones from the Drake spawn knights. So that's going to be a project eventually, unless they get new
all of
new
my
sculpts.
Saurus Knights have skinks on top because I'm using what were they? Tichi-Wichi's Raiders or whatever. Remember the Dogs of War unit that was like skinks on cold ones?
Okay, yeah.
So I just used them as I had them and I didn't have any of the Saurus Knights. I was like, these guys are my knights. These are my Saurus Knights. They're just very effective. They just have everybody thinks they're Saurus. They've tricked everyone. All right. Anyways, we talked a little bit about this last question I have, but I'm curious to know your actual sort of go-to strat. How do you protect your tiny but powerful utility heroes? We've talked about the Skink Priest showing up in the list. We've talked about the Skink Starseer, right? Like these guys are huge force multipliers in the army, but in the end, they are not, they're not tough. Like let's be honest, if they can get targeted by heat, they can die. So what's your general plan for protecting them?
You have to think about which ones you're okay to lose. So Skink Priest is usually one very important one. Nicely, he's the smallest model. So a lot of the time he's behind my Realm Shaper engine. So unless I'm playing Sentinels then
Sure.
he's going to be okay. A lot of the other ones too, like I said before, when they're in the garrison, people will often think that they can kill something and they can't because it has plus or -2 to hit, +1 save, all out defense for +2 to save, 6 up ward save from the Ashleth Bear. So sometimes I will put certain things into the Realm Shaper, just having an idea that if I lose them, like the Starseer, he's not integral to the list. He gives me the -1/+1 save. He gives me the Hand of Glory. If he dies, it's not game over. Where even if the Skink dies, it's not game over. But I would much rather lose the Starseer or Duralia. I put Duralia a lot in the Realm Shaper, and she got popped off once, turn 1, which was like, okay, that sucks. But, I'd way rather have my Skink Priest or my Ashleth Bear or something,
Sure.
So what popped her off? What did it?
That would have been, what was it, game 3? Fuck, I can't remember. It'll probably come back to me. Yeah, some type of shooting for sure.
Oh.
But again, that's like something that bow snakes.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, so I was playing and I was in range. He was 1-drop, so I was like, I put her in there. I'm like, if you waste your 15 shots in your face to shoot him, that's a whole CP. Yeah. You're not shooting anything else. You know what I mean?
You can't get really get out of their threat range anyway. It's 32, so or more with the Iron Scale.
Exactly. For the shooting, for the hero face shot, I could have, but then I was like, and also CP wise, so Doc doesn't get the most CP, so
right.
So, but otherwise, keeping things safe. It's just either behind the temple, in the temple to garrison, or Saurus guard, obviously with the slant. or terrain, just using
Yeah, just
terrain.
use the terrain. Yeah.
I love places that, like, I'm so used to. I'm a bit of a terrain snob, I guess you could say, just because
Sure.
Jordan has such beautiful terrain and we play on like such beautiful boards that will one thing. A funny thing about the boys, actually, the table that won best terrain, it was table one. And it was all of the printable scenery elven table. You probably recognize Tyler from watching the if you know what I mean. So it was like all nicely painted green, like same as Jordan's that he has. And then it actually had the Season of War objective markers, the ones that nice. Like Jordan made on his store. So it was funny because the guy who came up and asked, he was like, "Oh, what do you think? Like, I made this table." I was like, "Oh, this is great. Like, we play one very similar, like all the time." And he's like, "Yeah, these the objective markers are awesome." Like not knowing that Jordan is standing right there and he's the one that he bought them from. So Jordan's just like, "Yeah, like those, I made those." And he was just, "Oh, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, I made those." And then I look at him like, they're actually nicer than the ones we use, because the ones we use are like the shoddy, like ones that he didn't sell or whatever on his store.
Sure.
Just so funny, just hilarious. But yeah, it was. Terrain is always a thing. You know, people always talk about at tournaments. It's always so nice to have like nice terrain at tournaments.
100%. Cannot agree more. All right, cool.
So well, I've got a few.
Yeah, hit me.
I know we're coming. We're coming up on time. So real quickly. Boundless, what are they called? Bound endless spells. Yeah, that's it. What are your thoughts on those, Rich?
Yeah, they've changed a bunch now. So there's a couple cheeky ones that I've thought of. Purple Sun, because I think it goes wild, so you can just bind that one with the slan. So I thought about that.
That thing's pretty good, man. Again, I played that last week, and it did a lot of work to my Stormcast.
Yeah, for mortals, right? It's one of those ones.
He kept popping off that 6 with the D6.
Oh wow, yeah. If you can roll that, then it's going to do real work.
Yeah.
But other than that, bound, it's like usually wizards are going to be within 30 of their spell, so it's not the biggest thing. When it came out, I was kind of excited just because bound endless spells were broken before, so I was excited that they actually fixed it properly. Because even with Croak, Balewind Hopping, 40 Skinks, all of these things, bound Geminids was as you guys know, just the dumbest thing ever. Like how that was a thing for so long is just wild, and how effective it was being able to double tap and blah, blah. So yeah, I was a little excited to see kind of what they did with it, but overall not crazy powerful. But I don't know.
What are your go-to endless spells in a Seraphon list? Or do you have, I saw cogs, but are there, particularly endless spells that you think will find their way commonly into competitive lists?
I think just the ones that are already good. So, what's it called? Or Emerald Lifestorm, I've seen. One of the guys was running that. I could maybe see that with 30 Skinks or with the Sallies. Could be interesting. You would need to roll a 3 to get a Sally back, but still interesting. Burning Head, 20 points. It's just, a source to... And it's interesting because the source Astrolith Bear does give 6 inches to cast. So he's one of the only models in the game, other than like Archon and some other ones, that actually extend the range of endless spells. So, a lot of them are a little more viable. I've used Shackles before, but just so many models... not even so many. Shackles I think is still really good, because Giants, a lot of things that don't have pluses to cast because they're on a 7, right? So you're often able to get them off. So I think they're pretty good as well. But like other ones that are good in other armies, I think just having the range increase.
Okay. We haven't talked much about Croak. So how competitively viable do you think Croak is right now? Like, is it just that there's too much shooting, and that if you get through the 5 Source Guard, there's too much risk, or too much shooting can burn down the 5 Source Guard too quickly?
Yeah, Croak has a soft spot in my heart because of how good he was before, but he also has a very bad spot because last year at Grand Clash, I brought him to Grand Clash and I had 5 Source Guard with him. Game 1 against KO, and this was before you didn't have your Realm Shaper. So we rolled off. I lost the roll off. I didn't have my Realm Shaper. So I had to deploy, and I was able to keep Croak in cover. This was before AoS 3, so it was like different rules and whatnot. But he had his 3d6 mechanic. So I got the Ironclad came in, the Warp Lightning Vortex, 20 Thunders popped out, everything fully shot into him. So he's -1 to hit, +1 save. Mathematically, he should have survived through everything, but it all came down to him doing 9 wounds to Croak at the very end of the day. And this was game 1 of a 6 tournament where I had a ridiculously competitive army because it was AoS 2 still, and I rolled the 11, and he went down turn 1, and I ended up winning the next 5. I went 5-1. I ended up winning the next 5 games because, like, again, AoS 2 Seraphon was just insanely strong. But just that long story is just to summarize, competitively, anything that you have a risk is you want to minimize if you want to win, a lot of games.
That's basically why I feel like, sorry, Matt, that 10 Saurus Guard, if I'm going to run Croak, I'm running 10 Saurus Guard.
100%.
In my mind, yeah. So I'd be really curious to see you do that on a bat rep, see how that goes. Like, build a list around that where you're doing the 10, you're doing him, and maybe you're moving up the board, not just keeping him in the back. You're pushing out that power projection, that threat range of him, middle of the table, and that should still give you quite a bit else that you can do in the list. I think it could be. I'm just a little find it strange we haven't seen that. I haven't seen that as much in all these different Seraphon lists. At least the 10 and Croak.
Yeah, it's so. What would that be? 6. So 660. They're 115 each for each guard. So 230 plus 430. Yeah, so 660 for the 10 guard and him. Yeah, there's still a lot of room for other stuff in there for sure. You're going to want the Ashleth Bear because he needs to have that for the 6-inch 16. So, a little on the expensive side still, but no, it could definitely still be interesting. But I'm with you on that one, like 10 guard for sure, because now he can't garrison the temple, he can't get lookout sir, he can't all these AoS 3 rules that make the Slan unbelievably good. He doesn't benefit from anymore.
I mean, I think, Tyler, the real answer is just the randomness of his survivability. Right?
Yeah, the risk,
because it's all up to a dice roll, and like I think that in the end, if you look at sort of Spike's psychographic profile, right, of like, and Spike is sort of your definer of the tournament list, right?
Yeah.
Spike hates random risk that he can't control for, and the fact that there is a set of dice he could roll when he takes 3 wounds that makes that frog explode. No matter how minimal, right? Because it is a super minimal chance to happen. Like, let's be honest, right? But because you can't control for it really in any way, he can just take splash damage and then accidentally implode. I think that alone makes him the tough proposition.
Spike hates Skaven, which is no one should ever hate Skaven. So no, I'm not with him on that.
Yeah, agreed.
Right, Tyler?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I'm just moving on from that. The skill level, where is this army, Ridge, from a skill level standpoint? That is, how much does it really require a pretty good level of skill to get good results? How much is it more like Suns, where it's pretty straightforward? Kind of where is it on the spectrum in your mind?
Yeah, and I think you're asking here, Tyler, both floor and ceiling.
Yeah.
Because both are relevant.
Yeah. I think it's not fully like Lumineth to where like it's a very, very high skill cap, or Legion of the First Prince, I guess.
Right.
Some of the other ones that really good generals will take it to another level, but with Fangs and the Starborn ones, I think that they're maybe a little bit higher because you can do a lot, and there's so many things to think about. You're always thinking about, okay, where is this unit going to teleport? Okay, where do I bring these down? It's one of those armies that you can get bogged down. So I think it's a little bit higher skill cap in the way that you need to be thinking of a lot of things. There are a lot of different buffs. There's a lot of different dropping down your skinks or things so that next turn you're wholly within 12, so you can give +1 to save. You know what I mean? A lot of aura buffs. So actually then, I think it is a little bit higher of a skill cap for things like that. Maybe not as much the staggies in the beasts. Obviously they're a little bit more. You can play them. But even there, there's still a lot of tactical stuff you do with them in buffs and stuff like that. But there is a lot of a lot of things to it. So there's a lot to know. So it's an army for sure that you get a lot better with playing. Like you get better with reps, and I've noticed that massively just myself. And Jordan could probably tell you the same thing. Like, as you play them more and more, you become so much better in you remember all of those little bubble things and all those. I better not pile in here because then I'll be outside of my Star Priest buff. Like those can lose you games. When your skinks don't have 6s to wound to an additional mortal, your output is nowhere.
Yeah, to me, I've always perceived them as again, taking the list on average, there's variance in lists here, of course, but so we're just going to kind of average across the army. And my perception of it's always been it's a medium to high skill floor to really effectively pilot, but a decently high skill cap as well. I agree with you that it's almost like if Lumineth is this, right, then Seraphon are like that. Like
Yeah.
it'd be the same distance of the bar like in Price is Right, but it would just be scooted down some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in AoS 2, I think it was way more forgiving. Like,
Yeah.
just because you could run 40 skinks, 40 skinks, 40 skinks. So that's where it was like people that have never even played. I remember watching so many TTS games where it's like so many people were just playing it because it was super strong, or they needed a ringer player, or someone had to come in and play it. And it was like they would still do well, or they would still win. And it was like so frustrating for people because it was like, oh, anyone could play Seraphon, anyone could do this. And it was like, yeah, because it's just all skinks and they're still effective. But
Right.
one of those things that, it's just so many rules, and it's, one of those time things that, need to play games, get reps in.
Yeah, it generally reminds me a little bit of Daughters of Cain. Got some experience, of course. We talked about on the show that Daughters of Cain outside of Marathi can be unforgiving to mistakes. It's a lot of its positioning, screening. I think my experience of it is an army of screens and hammers. Got to keep those hammers safe. And Seraphon reminds me a lot of Daughters of Cain, that it seems relatively like it can be unforgiving. You're not Stormcaster ability or some of these other armies. You don't have that. So if you make mistakes, you could definitely get punished. Is that
I couldn't agree more. Honestly, that is better than anything that we've said so far. And there have been games where I've made the small mistakes or things have happened. And if you want the best way to kill Seraphon, I'll tell you right now, everyone, is you kill the hammers. If you can kill those hammers, that's, you can only summon 10 skinks. You can summon a salamander, but you couldn't have said that better for sure. That's keeping the hammer safe is always the number one thing on my mind.
Well, your bad reps have been amazing. I really have enjoyed watching you play them on the channel because it's one of the best representations. Caleb, also with his chat, you mentioned Caleb Hastings, also really good. Just kind of giving people a better sense of what all you can do with the army. But watching you, I mean, it's clear there's a lot involved. It's not not an easy button army. It doesn't strike me as that. But it's got a lot of potency if ran well.
I appreciate that, man. And honestly, I've had a few comments from people that have like almost maybe like tear up because it was like so nice of comments like, hey Rich, thanks a lot like for taking time to go through things. Like, you're the reason that I play Seraphon, and I've painted this many points, and now I'm going to tournaments and stuff. And it's like, that obviously there's nothing better than to hear like stories like that. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, very good. By the way, shout out to Caleb Walters, who just joined us. One of your opponents there. What's up, Caleb? How you doing, buddy? I saw you crushed our mutual friend Paul round 1. Well done, Caleb. Well done. At any rate, Ridge, thank you so much for being on the show, man, and talking to us about Seraphon. This is fantastic, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been watching for a long time, so super cool to be on.
And now that I know you're also a Skaven player deep in your heart,
yes.
like you're more than welcome back. We're gonna have you back on, and so when maybe it'll be to come back on and talk about rats. Talk about how we dig out of this 30% win rate hole that the rats find themselves in.
Let's make sure that's a Tom show, please.
Tyler, I might have to foist it on you just because it'd be much funnier to have you in there. I played rats this last weekend. It didn't go well. I'll say it that much. That's so. Many of my vermin lords proceeded to let me down multiple times and then get murked by zombies, and I was like, oh god, why? Anyways, so thank you, Rich. Great show. Really appreciated all your insights, everything you shared, buddy. And congratulations again on the win. Very well earned.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
Don't forget the channel, Season War, is going to be linked down below. Everything that was mentioned in Pick of the Week linked down below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, press all those buttons. It's important to press buttons. That's how other people find the show. It really helps us out. It's so easy. It takes not but a second of your time to just click a little button. And it's so nice. It makes us feel so happy. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Tyler, thank you as always.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, thank you one last time. All of you out there, as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.